There is Anna. Hey, Anna. Are you in Germany? You're muted.
I am back in LA.
Yay, that is great. Thank you for the pictures. I was very sad. Well, we're right now in Maui, so it's not the worst. So we're only until Sunday, and then we're back. Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to give it a few more minutes until we dive into this exciting class. At least I hope it will be exciting. You might be bored to death. I think it's going to be exciting. So there we go. Let's have everyone get on here and give him a few more minutes. And what I would like to do then is I would like everyone to have like literally just 2 minutes to introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, where they are, kind of thing. Because all of you have been in various classes, I believe, before. Not everyone was in the same class. So at least that way we kind of know each other. I mean, you kind of know each other. I know most of you. Is anyone on here that has not taken my first class? Okay, Chris, have you taken this class with Richard?
Nope.
You've not taken the first class.
Nope.
All right. I'm going to tell you, and I don't know, you'll find out, but the first class is a prerequisite, so this
Oh,
might
okay.
this might get a little hairy for you. I'm just letting you know. Most of you have taken the first class, and because it is a prerequisite, I'm not going to go into details about that. You're going to decide today if you feel this is for you, maybe even next week, and if you think it's too hairy, you can let me know. And then what I can do, here's what we're going to do, Chris. I'm going to send you the link for the first class that we are going to teach first on this coming Saturday for the first time because it starts now. So you get into that one with me, and then you see which
Okay.
one you like better, and then you can potentially switch.
Sounds good.
Yeah? Anyone else here has not taken the first class that I teach? Everyone else did. Fantastic. We're very happy about that. So as I mentioned, we're going to go quickly around the loop here and just everyone gives us their name, where they are, what they do, and then I'm going to dive into the material today. It's going to be a little bit of repetition because some of you have taken the class a while ago. I just want to make sure everyone is kind of on the same plate, at the same place. And then I would like to dive into some assignments that I have planned for us and some questions that I can answer for you. So let's start with you, Anna. I'm just going to go down what I see here on the screen. So Anna.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Anna. I'm based in Los Angeles. I grew up in Germany and used to many years ago practice law as a film finance attorney. But I'm really excited to make the leap over onto the business slash producing side. And so I'm very excited to be taking this advanced class.
Great to have you. Meredith, you're next.
Hi, Jeanette. Hi, Jim, and everyone. I'm Meredith. I'm also based in LA. I had the chance to take Jeanette and Jim's previous classes. So I'm excited for this one. I have pivoted into kind of producing from the United Nations. That's what I was doing prior in the last 10 years. And I've just completed the film and TV development and producing certificate, and through the UCLA program have incubated about 4 projects. So I'm looking to take those forward and use this class to help me build kind of the slate financing plan for that. So lovely to meet you all.
Great to have you, Meredith. Robert, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Gosh, well, yeah, 2 quarters, but it feels like a long time.
Does everything after the last quarter is like, what? Who are they? Forget it. I'm getting old, Robert. What can I do?
Well, I'm there too. So, but hello everybody. I'm Robert. And I took Jeanette's first class. And I'm a writer primarily in background. I've worked in post-production a little too. And I'm interested in learning more about producing. So this is part of the continuing journey.
Love it. Jim, do you want to tell us about yourself a little bit? I mean, most people know you, but I have Jim join us because he likes to sometimes throw in some things. Jim Milio is actually my husband, but he also teaches 2 classes at UCLA, the business of entertainment, and then this other one that has a very long name. Jim, you go and tell us which one the other one is.
Yeah, it just helps my ego if I can butt into Jeanette's class every once in a while and say something. No, I'm just happy to be here. I financed almost all my movies the wrong way, and then I met Jeanette, so that's one of the reasons I'm here. And I think when she did this advanced class last year, it was really interesting to see all the different students put together completely different packages of slates, but all had workable kind of business plans, which is great. So it'll be fun to see what happens with all of you.
What is the second class called that you teach? You teach business of entertainment, and what's the other one?
Producing and directing documentary and reality television.
See, that's a long sentence. I already forgot it just listening to it.
I know, I never remember it.
So Jim comes from writing, directing, and producing, worked on big things like My Big Greek Wedding, Rescue 911, The Dog Whisperer with Cesar Milan, and other things, won some awards, People Choice, Emmys, etc., and has much more interesting credits than I have. So he sometimes has interesting things to share, especially about things that didn't go so well. So that's one of the reasons why he's here. I mean, I share plenty of those because there are a whole list of those, but I always like to have someone here who does the same. So great to have you, my love. Chris, you're hiding. Come here, come back. Here he is.
Hello, yeah, I can start. Hi, I'm Chris, based out of Los Angeles, grew up on the East Coast in Maryland and New Jersey, kind of went back and forth. I've worked predominantly in, most recently, animation, development, and production, and then also some experience in lit management. This is my first class in general through UCLA extension, so I'm excited, but I do have a little bit of experience of not having a whole bunch of background in a class. I during COVID did a master's program at a business school without ever having to once be able to take a business class before that. So I was able to do okay there. So hopefully I can try to make it work here too. But it's really nice to meet all of you.
Right, and we will try to make it work for you too. I just wanted to give you forewarning. That's it.
I
Glad
appreciate
to
it.
have you. Glad to have you, Christopher.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chris. Also Chris. I'm also here from LA. I'm a writer-director and have had some experience with the UCLA extension that has always been great. Really enjoyed it. And I've worked in development, production quite a bit, and am hoping to get more into producing and developing a couple films in the next year.
Fantastic. Well, you're in the right place. Michael.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again, Jeanette. I was in her class, I don't know, several years ago.
Yeah.
And learned a lot there. It was a good class. And since then, I've actually been producing films in Japan. I've got a production company over there as well as in LA. We're just in the process of selling our third feature. I was just in Tokyo until a couple days ago, screening for some distributors and other folks. And I'm a little bit sick, so my apologies for that. But looking forward to the class and getting to know everybody. So it's all very exciting.
Great. Are you producing English-speaking content in Japan?
It's all Japanese content, which then we are obviously, subtitling in English for festivals and also for distributors outside of Japan and the sales companies for that matter. So
Got it.
it's all Japan domestic stuff for global distribution, basically.
Interesting. Have any of your Japan features or projects sold in the US or globally?
Not yet. We're working on it
All
right
right.
now. The latest one, we're talking to several sales companies in Europe. We're already in one of the big festivals coming up, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Because there's really great demand for projects like this, as you know, that come from different cultures, actually in the original language, because people just want to see through a window into these different worlds. So I think it's good timing for you. Great to have you again.
Hopefully. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So tell me your name. Is it Sarah? No. It says yes, SG.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I need to change that. Nice to see you again, Jeanette. I had taken the class last year, so I am also based in LA. I've been here a little over 4 years, and I am in sales, international sales of film. I just joined 2 months ago a company which is a subsidiary of Legendary Entertainment. It's called 193, and we do production, financing, and international sales of film and TV series. I used to be in film acquisition prior to that, and I dabbled also a little bit in marketing and publicity, but I am interested in becoming at some point a producer, and so financing movies is an extremely important part of that. So I'm really hoping that this class will allow me to understand better how we go about doing it on our end in the company, because my focus on a day-to-day is not assessing that, but mostly assessing the value of the scripts that we get and doing estimates and thinking about the international value.
Great.
So that's it.
So when you do the estimates, you're doing them based on the script, based on the genre, based on cast, based on director. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Right. The things we learned in the other class. I'm so glad. So is it Sarah? What is your first name? I want everyone to know.
Yes, Sara, Sarah.
Sarah, correct. I remember this correctly. I was like, I wasn't sure. It's been a while.
I need
Great.
to that.
Yeah, no, it's just fine. I just want everyone else to know your name. There we go. Okay, next I have on my screen, is it Hakeem? Is that correct?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yes, correct. It's Hakeem. I did your class, was it sometime last year, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. I'm based in London actually, and so it's around 3 a.m. in the morning here.
Oh
So
no, you
yeah.
need coffee.
More- As I spoke to you earlier on in the earlier class, I'm interested in becoming a film producer, but from the finance aspect. And that's the reason why I've decided to take the advanced class as well, because I did learn quite a lot from you last time, but there's still more that I need to understand and deepen my knowledge and then focus on that aspect specifically, being a finance producer. So that's the reason why I'm taking this course. And yeah, looking forward to learning more about it.
Fantastic, glad to have you. Senia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ksenia. I'm a Los Angeles-based producer, and I also have a marketing and PR agency. And I attended the class of Jeanette last year. I come again from like more of a marketing and production background, but I'm through UCLA. I've been actually doing some great progress in my journey to also transition into development and financing. And now I do want to finance my first slate of movies. I actually met your old client, our old student, Dan Harlow. And actually right now I'm
Great.
teaching him something too, and
Great.
I totally kind of decided that I absolutely have to take this class after I listened about his journey.
Yeah, he actually took the advanced class. I can't believe he's having to ask you questions. Was he sleeping when we did this? Jesus. Tell him. I told you. No, he's fine.
Yeah, and he actually taught me something too, because he does like really great marketing with like reviewers and Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah.
Yes, that's great. Maya.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maya. I took the first class with Jeanette, I want to say last summer. So it's been a second, but I had an opportunity to take this class, and I am currently pivoting my career from real estate finance, a couple of years in that industry, moving into film finance, hopefully like studio FP&A, program financing type of stuff. So very excited to be in this class. Not as late as the UK, but I am in Boston, so I've got a cup of tea next to me. Just got to power through for this class. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk to everyone and get to know everyone here.
Great. Well, trust me, I would like this class to be earlier too. It's not my decision, unfortunately. I mean, 7 to 10 alone in LA is already, I'm already sleeping. I go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. By the time, we teach at 9, I'm like, what's my name? What are we doing? So no, I totally get it. We'll not take responsibility for that. But when we do our 2 days, we have the whole day together. So that's going to be fun from morning to evening. Right. Great to have you again, Maya.
Yeah, good to see you.
Megan, good to see you again.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again, Jeanette. I took the prerequisite class last quarter, and I'm based in LA. and I am taking these classes as part of the producing certificate. I'm working on a career change. I used to work before as a mechanical engineer specialized in nuclear submarine construction and maintenance. And so I really like the risk mitigation elements of the previous class, especially because of my engineering background and working on risky projects before. That's right up my alley. And is that all I was supposed to say?
That's okay. I just want to get a glimpse. That's fantastic. Thank you, Megan, for sharing this. We'll help you change your career, make a switch.
Yes.
Why not? So thank you. Good to have you again. Sam also was in the last quarter. Sam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You look like you're on a film set. Look at
No, just my house.
Great.
I'm in a loft and the baby's asleep and my wife's going to sleep. So here we are. I'm in New York. And I too am making a career change from production design after doing a lot of television for the last 10, 15 years, a little theater too. And I'm actively trying to put together a slate. So this is perfect. I've been building a production company and I've got 3 features I'm leading with. And then we're focused on trying to pull together 7 to 10. So the last class was incredibly informative and eye-opening, and here I am. So
that's great.
See you
Glad
guys
to have you
later.
back. And I love the projects that you talked about. So I think it would be a very interesting slate for all of us to hear about. Thank you for coming.
Getting
Cami,
weirder all the time.
Yeah. Cami, it's been a minute. How have you been?
I've been really well.
Good.
It's nice to see you. I took Jeanette's class, I think in the fall. I took Jim's class and was a very bad student, so I feel like I need to take that class again. But the last time we talked, I was working part-time. I made a career change from real estate agent into film finance. I work for a very small finance company. And now I'm working there full-time. And we're trying to get ready to raise a second fund. So I think it's super timely to be in this class. I learned so much the last time around, so I'm very excited to be here. And one of our movies, The Life of Chuck, is currently in theaters. I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing it. It's a Stephen King adaptation with Mike Flanagan as the director. So that's been very exciting.
That sounds great. I love Stephen King. That's good stuff.
It's on my
Jeanette, you have like half a studio in this class already.
I know. You guys are all working together. This is fantastic. We could put a mini major studio together here.
Totally.
Great to have you, Cami. I think we have, I think Yas has not spoken and then Terrell has not spoken. So Yas, you want to give us?
Hi. So I was with Jeanette, I think in 2023 during the strike, which that was like the best time to join. Nothing was going on. And also Cami, I shit you not. I was just talking to somebody today about the Life of Chuck, and I saw the trailer and I want to see that movie. But for me, myself, I'm just trying to get more into production, and my background is in finance, but also in acting. And so just trying to figure out how to merge those two together. So that's why I'm here.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Okay, Terrell, I think you're the last one on the list here, if I'm not missing anyone.
Hello, how y'all doing? My name
Hey.
is Tyrell. I'm an actor. I've been in LA for 4 years now. And I took the screenwriting course in 2023, so I decided to come back to take the producing course, and that's why I'm here.
Great. Fantastic. All right. I think we have a great group of people. Did I miss anyone? Fantastic. So what I will do is I'm going to share screen. Here is the screen number 1. And as you guys know, I love my PowerPoints. I did send you materials that you might need later, depending on how far we get. But you do have the student version of this PowerPoint as well. So you don't need to you're taking notes or anything, everything is kind of, you already have it at your disposal. And once we're done with the class, it will be recorded, of course. I will send you the full PowerPoint with all the answers to the assignment, so you have that as well. So we're going to start with our first module. And here I'd like to do some housekeeping items so everyone knows when the class is, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and so forth. For some reason, Canva sent out a wrong announcement and everyone got confused about when we're meeting. We're meeting on Wednesday. So that's like today. And then the first 4 courses will be online like this, 7 to 10. And then the next courses, the next modules, the first 4 modules, sorry, will be taught online. And then the next 5 to 10, we will do as an essential component in our workshop. But in the workshop, which will be on August 8 and August 9, if I have this correctly, we'll meet all day. So we'll get together at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a break for lunch, and we stay there until 7 p.m. And in that time, we will talk about some module essentials, but we'll really be starting to work on our business plan and really diving into what is important for slates, how do we finance slates, what do people want to see when they finance slates. It's a little different than what we have learned in the first class, where we did, as an extra credit project, which some of you did, a production pitch deck for one project. So having a slate is something that production companies do in order to get the ball rolling on their content. And it could be anything from a genre slate, we're doing horror movies, that's it, in our slate, from we're doing everything and mix it up. So there are different components with slates, and we'll talk about all of them in this course, and particularly on these 2 days that we're meeting. So once these 2 days are done, you have time to work on your actual, we're going to do a lot of it in class, but you have time to kind of fine tune what you've been working on. And then we have office hours available where you can tell me where you're at, what you're doing, and I will answer questions one-on-one, subject to your particular slate. So we will do that as well. And then by the end of the course, we'll do a pitch session where people have time to pitch their final product, basically their final business plan, and just take us through the essentials. So that's the evil plan for this course. You will see that modules open at a certain time and that quizzes and assignments are due at a certain time. Some of these modules will open earlier. The quizzes will not be due until a later time. So you don't have to worry about when they open, when it's due. Everything's on Canvas. If you just keep an eye on, oh, there is a quiz due, or there's an assignment due, let's see, let's do this now or do this later. As long as it's done by the end of the course, I don't really care when you're doing it. I want you to do them so that you have some really grounded knowledge that you can dive into deeper and see if it all sits well with you in these assignments and quizzes. And the other thing that's important to know is there is a lot of information in these modules. A lot. You can dive as deep as you want, or you can go straight to the summary page where everything is summarized. So like the first course that I did is I have an introductory page where I say, this is what we're going to do this week. And then there's a summary page. This is what you need to remember. So if you don't want to dive deep into the modules, you can go straight to the summary page, and that's okay. And that's sufficient for the quizzes and the assignments, that knowledge that you gain there. But if you're really interested in diving deep into the subject matter, you can read all the modules and the contents, and it's a lot of content. I'm just letting you know. Now, the kind of content that I'm teaching here is based on how we have worked or how we work with our company. So I always say that because it's not the only way to do things. It's not the only way to go about financing something or structuring a slate or structuring a film fund, all of which we'll talk about, because there are different ways to do things. So as you work for a company that might do things differently, it's not wrong. It's just a different way to go about things. I can only teach you what I do, how we raise funds, how we structure funds, how we do our slates, and how it has worked for us. But you might do it differently, and that's fine. So just know that my way is not the only way. I just want to tell you that up front. When you have questions, if you have questions, what I do is when you email me the questions and I respond to them, sometimes I put them into a discussion board that is called questions and answers. There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of answers there already from previous students. But whenever I see a question that I think, oh my God, others would benefit from, I'll put it there as well. Obviously, I'm going to answer your question, but I want you to know that there is a discussion, question and answer section that has a lot of questions that were asked and a lot of answers that were provided. So I'd like you to take a look at that. And because a lot of it will offer some clarification on things that you might be wondering about. So use it as a resource as you wish. We have office hours that I offer, and usually they're every second Saturday. So I don't do them every week, but I do them every second week. So you can pick a slot, you'll see them coming up on Canvas, you can pick a slot there and you can just sign up for office hours. If for whatever reason you don't see a slot that's available, we've done this before, just email me and say, there's nothing available, I want 2 o'clock on Saturday, and just tell me what it is. And if I see something around that time, I'll just plug you in. Sometimes Canvas is a little iffy on these things, so just know that is something I can do. I think that's the basics. Jim, did I miss anything on the housekeeping items? You're here, I talked
No, I
about
think
this.
you covered it. I think you
Yeah?
got it. Yep.
Has anyone any questions about this? No? Okay, then I'll dive into the next one. So we have basically 12 sessions if you want, or 11 sessions. And they will all evolve around these things. So some of the things you have heard of, some of the things are not new to you, but the deeper dive into them might be new to you. So we're basically going deeper into the subject matters that we have touched on before. And some of the stuff will be new, and some of the stuff will be stuff you know, and you can just bruise right through and don't need to worry about it. It gives you some time to work on other things. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the finance elements that we all have talked about before in the first class. I'm going to go a little deeper into them, but a lot of this you will remember, I would think. So next week, we're going to talk about film versus TV. Some of it you'll remember, some of it is going to be new. Then on the third week, I'm going to go deeper into distribution models and what is possible today. And some of it, again, you know, the basics like what Sarah and I just talked about will be there, but we build on that stuff. So we're going deeper into the subject matter here as well. And then we dive into things that we haven't really covered as much in the first course, which has to do with different kinds of investments investors can do. So we did, I think, one example, I want to say, where an investor can also provide a loan or an investment, basically, that looks like a loan structure. And I think that's as deep as we've gotten in number 1. So now we're going to have different versions for investors to invest in that I want you to know about, because you're going to imply them, or you might be able to include them in your slate structure, depending on the appetite the investor has or the risk profile they prefer. And then we talk about, you know, how creativity meets commerce, a little bit about how we can protect the investors and how we also need to deal with what the marketplace gives us. We are going to talk about in module 6 about advanced waterfall structures. So that is the waterfall that you know, but we're optimizing that, and we're doing parallel waterfalls to optimize the revenues for the investors particularly. So these waterfalls that we're talking about here will be slightly different than what you've seen. The main structure is similar, but we're going to have parallel things that are happening as we're going through the main waterfall. There will be another waterfall that helps the investor to do something more interesting. We're going to obviously talk about slates. That is the main, I should say, focus of this class. Even though it just is mentioned in module 7, we're going to find it throughout most of these modules, because it is what we're trying to establish, and every aspect of any of these other modules will find application in our business plan, in our slate construction. So that will be there. But in module 7, I will definitely focus on the different kinds of slates and what we can do there. Working in the entertainment industry is something, you know, I was asked to include. Most of you know this, but, you know, some people may not know some of the Hollywood rules, which are all weird. So it might be fun for you to see this. It's not, who knows? I mean, you may need it, you may not. Up to you.
Yeah,
We
I
will
would just,
talk. Yeah.
I would just add that it's something I teach in my class, because it doesn't seem like it would be that important, but if you know how to behave on a set and in an office, and know kind of more importantly what not to say and what to say, you'll be shocked at how much better your career could be. Shocked, I tell you.
That's true. Yeah, people in entertainment are weird. Anyway, module 9 is about elevating the value of our slate. How can we structure a slate to elevate how much money it can make and how it can increase profits for investors? So that is going to be something we want to focus on, because the way we structure a slate has a direct impact on how much money we can make with it. We will, of course, include the business plan concept in our conversations. How do we structure this thing? What should be in there? What should we focus on? And then in the last session, module 11, everyone is going to get a certain period of time and pitch their project. So they really need to rehearse it. They really need to know what to focus on, to not go on and on and on and on, because the time you have is going to be limited. And we will be very strict about that. Like in the first class, when we had extra credit projects, we let people talk, and like, oh, they went from, you know, things to things, and some were little long-winded. Obviously not all the perfect people that are in this class, but some can be long-winded. I have an example in the first class of a pitch session that we did that literally was 8 hours, and I do not want to repeat that. So you're going to get a certain time period that you can pitch, and you're going to ideally train yourself and record yourself to know what to say and not to say. So this is the EVA plan for this course. What we talk about today, here I just actually summarized. Let me see if I missed something here. Waterfall structures, ROI advancements and corridors, slate, cash flow plans. It's actually something important for slates, how we run cash flows, profit models for slate. Everything has to do with optimizing what the slate can do for us and what it can do for investors. We also do something where I want you to kind of evaluate a project. I mean, for Sarah, this might be boring. For most of you, I want you to step into the shoes of the acquisition executives who will look at a project a certain way. Because if you know how they look at something, you can prepare it for them to look at it in a way that is beneficial to you. So that's what I want you to do. We're going to evaluate some projects. And then, of course, we will design a deck that resembles the slate for a production company. We already said all meetings are recorded. If for whatever reason you cannot make it to those 2 workshop days, you can join us online as well for those. We have sometimes people, we've had people, I've only taught this once last summer. We had people that were in different countries and they went on online even for the 2 long days. So if for whatever reason you can't be here, don't worry. You can be here online, and we will include you in the vibe, so to speak. So this step really is in this module 1. We're going to look at some of the things you already know. What are the steps to get from an idea to profits? What are some of these financing sources and structures and application in terms? What are some investment options? How do we deal with optimizing the revenues? We talk about some of the non-recoverable finance sources and conditions and requirements, and we talk about advanced structures that optimize the profits. So some of the stuff that we do today may be repetitive for you, but since some of you already took the class years ago, you might appreciate getting the overview. So when we go from an idea that could be anything, a book, a script, an original script, it could be someone bringing you a project and you'll become a co-producer. It could be a what do we call it? A short film that you adapt to a long form. I've done all of these structures, and I know the main thing is you want to make sure you own the rights for the underlying property as well as the property that you are about to produce. So don't ever do anything with any content piece just because someone says to you, oh, can you look at this? And maybe you take it shopping and see what kind of deal you make. That's never a good thing. You always make sure that you own the rights. You know this, we talked about that. So when we go and start putting our project together, it's a little bit like a startup concept, like we would put together a startup company. So in this case, because we're talking about slates, it's important to really think about the production company with the slate as a startup company, because that's in essence what you are. Unless you run already a production company with slates, you are creating a new production company with a new slate that is basically handled like a startup. So what you want to do in every project that you include, make sure that the financing is strong, the packaging is strong, because every single project has value and every single project needs to be done in a certain way that optimizes the project, which then elevates into the slate. Sometimes you have projects that are stronger than others, and that's okay because the slate has the component or the advantage, I would say, to balance them out. And that's why a lot of times we like to use slates, because we do want the balance and we do want to be sure that if maybe one project doesn't do so well, another one that does better can offset that. So you want to have a strong script, you want to have a team that has some track record, you want to have feasible budgets where you communicate with the marketplace and make sure you're not overreaching. We know this, we always have to talk to the sales agent to make sure the budget is feasible. You want to have a finance plan that responds to the marketplace as it is right now. And you want to have a business plan, as we know, that is strong, in this case, our slate business plan. You want to have investors and financiers, and they're not necessarily the same. A financier could be a mezzanine lender or a bank that is not a bank. Could be like either a person that gives you a loan or a production company or a company that does mainly lending, but does it maybe just for pre-sales or has a different structure. So financiers is a framework for all the different kinds of financing that's available to us. Doesn't necessarily have to be equity investment by itself. The film markets are essential for us as startup companies because that is where we see what kind of other content is in the market, what works, what doesn't work, and who is selling what. So when you go to any of the film markets, American Film Market is coming up in November, or you go to the Cannes Film Festival, or NetP in Cannes, or MIPCOM in Cannes, which the last two are more for television content. But it is important to be to go to these places simply to see what is in the marketplace and what are the budget ranges that are being presented there and who is selling what content, and get in touch with people like that. Sales entities change. People that work at these entities change. So it is important to kind of get in contact with the actual person rather than maybe the company, because they may be going somewhere else. So personal relationships are extremely important, and they're best done at these markets. You want to have a bankable sales agents, and those change too. So not every sales agent that is bankable today is bankable tomorrow. So there are changes, and there are also new sales agencies that come in that you're not going to know about until you go to a film market, because that's the only place where you will know about them. And of course, when you read the trades, some deals will be announced. What you're going to have a hard time finding in the trades is the details of the deals. So it is rarely that some sales company will say, we sold this movie to Germany for X amount, and we sold it to Spain for Y amount. These are, I should say, relationships and business transactions that are confidential, which is one reason why you're not going to find a lot of statistics on these things. So what is what is important is if you put together, if you have a relationship with a sales agent that you do more things with, and a slate gives you the option to do that, and they share with you what kind of deals they have done lately on a similar project. So that's the only way for you to find out what actually is the value of each of the projects and what is the value for your slate. So that kind of relationship is important. And it changes with every project at every time. So we have to adjust sales estimates all the time, definitely for the projects, the genres, the talent, the budget range. We always have to adjust them. Since we do mainly, I would say, globally viable commercial content, the sales estimates happen to be similar in our case. But let's say I do a documentary, we do more and more documentaries now. Those are very, they're very much changing, because documentaries are hard to estimate, and I really have to talk to the sales agent or the distributor that works with those in order to figure out what is the value of my particular documentary series. So those are, conversations to be had with every project, with every specific sales entity and distributor. But globally viable content used to have a certain number of revenues, and Now, percentage-wise, the revenues is similar, but the pricing is lower. So the percentages are similar, but what they pay might be lower than what we've gotten, and that's usually what we're finding. We want to talk about a development fund. When you put together a slate, different than putting together a movie, you're going to potentially need more money to get that slate going, because now you're packaging maybe 3 movies instead of 1. Now you have to attach 3 leads and have to pay a down payment to attach them instead of 1. So having a development, I want to say development fund, but it's really could also be an angel investor that helps you with the development costs, is something to consider for a production company that puts a slate together. So a development fund in that sense would include all the rights fees, unless a producer pays them. Many times a producer does pay the rights fees for the projects that are in the slate. That's something how they start with. But let's say you don't have the money to pay the rights fees. That's something you can put in the development fund if you want. The down payments for the actors are definitely in the development fund because they tend to be higher. If it's 25% of the salary someone gets, you could be looking at hundreds and thousands of dollars. The same for the showrunner. When we have 3 TV series, and it could be 1 showrunner for all 3, likely not. So we have maybe 3 showrunners. They are expensive, especially the kind that is we call them the green light showrunner, someone who attaches to a TV series and is able to actually open the doors to someone doing a deal. And with TV, it's very much showrunner driven, as we talked about in our first class. Packaging is something we talked about before. Here, it's really about looking at our projects and can we have a conversation with an agent to say, I'm making 3 movies, not just 1. Can we do a deal where your director or your cast would attach to my 3 films? Or maybe we do a deal with you, the agency, that is an overall maybe packaging deal, in lack of a better word, it should probably be called something else at this time because they're the whole thing with packaging. But the point is, you can create a relationship with an agency or a management company that supports the fact that you are a volume producer, if you want to call it that. So they can look at your company as someone where they can make more money with talent, writers, directors, etc., because you're doing more movies than just 1. You got to talk to them about what your budget level is of 3 films, and you also got to talk to them about what your distribution strategy is for the US. Because that's not a given. Even with the slate, even when you have 3 movies instead of 1, doesn't necessarily make the chances for the US better. I would say it makes it a little easier because you become, again, a volume producer, but it's not necessarily that they'll, just throw spaghetti at you and saying, it's amazing, we want all these movies. So it's not necessarily an easy target. It is, however, one where if you can make 3 movies where the US buyer says they were all great and we made a lot of money with them, you will likely have a relationship established that makes it a lot easier for you to do all deals and maybe even do a first look deal with someone like that where they will always buy your content. So the entry is potentially similar, maybe slightly better with a volume producer with the slate, but it's definitely going forward something that should make it a little easier for you to place your content. When it comes to financing, we still talk about the same things. We need to have for every product projections. We need to have for every product a pre-sale structure. Now with the slate, we can play a little and we can say maybe for this one movie, we only have 2 pre-sales. For this other movie, we have 5 pre-sales. And for this movie, we have 3 pre-sales. And on average, we have 3 pre-sales. So when we then go to the bank and say, well, we don't have 3 for this, because the bank likes to usually see 3 pre-sales for a movie to give a gap loan, let's say. You can say, well, we're going to do an overall deal with you where on average, we're going to have 3. So the conversation there could be something where the 3 movie deal is going to be interesting for the bank because they can do a bigger loan for you. The structure might be slightly different. It could be something where they say, we want to provide what is called a line of credit that is backed by the slate and the estimates and pre-sales that you're giving us. It's the same thing in essence, because you get money from the bank for 3 films, and in essence, the rules that you would see for 1 movie usually applies for this too. But you do have the option to get 3 films financed with 1 banking partner without, you know, having to jump through hoops with every project every time. So you do have an advantage being someone who has, again, volume production, particularly with lenders, and that would be any kind of company that finances against pre-sales and provides a gap. Again, doesn't have to be a bank, could be any company, but the slate structure makes a lot of sense for them, and they usually like it. We are looking at equity investors in a slate a little different, simply because the way we structure the slate is going to likely, if we do it right, offer them a higher ROI, so a higher return on their investment, not just because the slate will offer risk mitigation because of diversification, but also because of the cash flow, the way we run the cash flow. So there could be an element of them investing actually less because sales revenues can support some of the money that is needed in order to make a movie or a project happen. So that will, in the end, potentially, if we do it right, offer a higher return on investment, which is why it is usually a good idea to talk to investors about more than 1 project. Completion bond is something we should consider for a slate always, because each of these projects, unless it's a $500,000, $1 million project, if a slate investor comes in, or if a bank comes in that will provide money for all 3, they would want to see them all bonded, because that's the only way for them to ensure their money and to ensure the film is going to be finished and delivered. So when we have a slate, we will likely have to deal with the completion bond company on all these films. Now, the beautiful thing is that completion bond companies today do offer lower rates for lower budgeted films. Sometimes it's even a flat rate. So we can have a conversation with them about, well, we have slates that are where a movie is $1 million. So we have 3 of those or 5 of those. So what can we do? And they'll give you an option that could be a flat deal for these 5 movies. So that's something that you can talk to them about. And bonds are open, particularly when you bring them more than 1 project. That's my experience. So you see what you think when you start talking to them. We do have, in these financing structures, we always have a senior lender, which again can be a bank, could also be another lender, could be an investor. We have incentives. We will have to have that. Now, let's say you make a movie or a project where you don't have that many incentives, or you may just have that 1 project that you're shooting in LA and you're not going to get chosen through the lottery for a production incentive. There is obviously other ways to create non-recoupable finance sources, NRs as I call them, but they would maybe not include an incentive. It could be like a branding deal, maybe it couldn't be deferment, but maybe it's an in-kind service. Maybe it is some music investment, maybe there's some crowdfunding in there. Whatever the structure is, it could also be none of those. And here's what happens then. You have other projects in the slate that could lift this project up. So even though this project might not have any incentives, you have other projects that do. And they're 20%, maybe one is 25%, maybe one is a co-production with a European company, and that is 45%. So you can level out the incentive bottom to beat the 20% that we like to see in order to generate revenues. So in this, on this note, you have more flexibility with your slates because you have different kind of movies that are done in different locations, and some actually would cover the movie that you shoot in LA and that has no incentives. So you do have more, I should say, flexibility in all the different areas, as long as in the end, the slate performance gets you to what a balanced finance plan would normally look like. And you can play with the movies and figure out what that would look like. And you can, of course, include music investments. The closing process is not dissimilar to what we've learned in the first class, because every movie has to kind of close, but you do save time and money by using the same people, the same lawyers, the same maybe bonder, the same lender. if you have more than one movie, if you have a slate, they'll likely lower their fees a little bit. So that's something that definitely offers advantages. Now, the one thing I want to focus on here in pre-production is the bridge lending, which we've done, which we'll do today, but also this is something that you will likely find in a slate to be applicable as well. Because the problem, actually it's not a problem, but it is usually a thing that the bond company, if it doesn't automatically bond the slate the way it is, still has to go through every project and look at all the documents separately as the project goes through pre-production. So the bonding process itself on a project level is not necessarily changing. The requirements still will be the same. So if you are in pre-production on one project, the bond company hasn't issued the bond yet, you need money to cover pre-production, you will likely find a bridge loan to be applicable. Now, if you talk to the bridge lender and say, well, we're going to do a bridge loan on all these movies in the slate, you really have to lower your interest. I'm not going to pay you 8% per week. It's going to be more like 4%. Can we have a conversation? Many times, those bridge lenders will work with you because there isn't really anything set in stone of what they can and cannot charge. I mean, I have paid as little as 1% a week to as much as, I think the highest I've percent was 8% a week. And it really also depends on where are we in the universe, what is going on with interest rates, and that is, of course, impacting those deals as well. But in general, bridge lenders are a little, I should say greedy, it just is, because they're taking a lot of risk. The risk for them is if the completion bond company doesn't close, my money is gone. And I have no way to ever get it back, because if the completion bond doesn't close, the movie is not insured, the movie may never go, I cannot even put something in the waterfall, because if there is no movie, there is no waterfall. So the risk that they take is pretty high, and they take that serious. So because of that, the interest rates are what they are. Now, with a slate deal, we have a bit of negotiation basis with them. The same will apply for the crews. If we structure the slate rights, we can work overall deals. Maybe we do a block production where we shoot 3 movies in a row. It's not easy to do, but let's say we do 3 Hallmark romantic comedies or 3 Hallmark, I'll give an example with Hallmark, Christmas movies. Those we can often structure in a way that they can do 1, 2, 3 in a row. We can keep the same team. We can just go on and do a block production that will save us some money. But it really depends, what is the movie, what are these movies, where do they shoot, what is the, so it's very project specific. I was never able to do it, just to be honest. It's my wishful thinking, but organizationally, it is hard to do. And it is possible. I know another producer who does it all the time in Australia, and they're very good at it. And I'm like, how do you do this? But you know, that's all they do. They just do low budget romantic comedies or destination movies, and they sell them to Hallmark and to all the specific people that buy these movies. And they have that all set up like a machine. So if you're set up like a machine, which is something you can get to, obviously with these slates, and they can expand to that, then I think it's easier to do. But if you're starting out, not the easiest thing to do. What do I want to focus on here? Pre-production, we talked about most of the things. If you have any questions, as you see something here on the slide, just stop me. But most of the things you know, what you can save on is, of course, locations. When you do shoot 3 movies and you reuse a location, it's obviously going to get a lot cheaper. So the thing is to look at, what is the content of my script? Do I have a location I can use for this movie, and this movie? Can I save money with that? So it's all about looking at the areas you can multiply in a way that they will benefit all the projects, or a lot of the projects that you have in the slate. The production, number 6, here is basically the execution of your pre-production time. And here we look at, you know, what can we do in regards to, it's all, to me, all slate related. What can we do that is multipliable? So the one thing we look at is, how do we report, well, the daily reporting? How do we make sure that our reports to the bond company are staying within the budget, that we have a variance that shows there's no, I should say, overage in one of the films that could bite us in the butt later. If we have an overage at any given time in one of the departments, we should be able to then offer the bond company immediately an explanation where we will find this overage to be covered from another section. So that's particularly important when you have a slate. You need to be able to get the confidence with the bonder in place right away by offering them solutions. So if there's anything that goes wrong on your production and you have to send a production report out that shows a variance that has an overrun in any of the departments, be ready to also offer a solution right away. Because it's not one movie that you're doing, because it might be 3 or 4 or 5 movies that you're doing, they want to see that you're a problem solver, because they don't want to see someone working with them on this one movie, already stuff is not working, and then it's going to repeat on the other movies as well. Yeah, we're not happy about that. So the bond company is very particularly keen to hear what solutions you have to offer. Now, the filming and the crews, if you can, and the stunts and makeup, wardrobe, all of these things, if you can find a way to multiply this, to make deals with someone, even if you're not shooting the slate in a block, if you can make deals with someone to say, we will take your services for 3 films instead of 1, they don't have to shoot one after the other. You often find that a 3-picture deal with anyone in the team will gain you some savings. So that's definitely something to think about and make sure you have that conversation with anyone that's included in your team. The same particularly would apply for post-production, because here you have a partner in a post-production house that is always interested in getting deals, in getting deal flow. And you can offer that to them by saying, yeah, we're going to do 3 movies with our production house, and we would like to do all 3 with you. That goes for the post house, it goes for the VFX house, it goes for the sound and music division, it goes for titles, delivery elements, whatever it is. You can save money on all of these things by offering a 3-picture deal versus just going in with 1 movie. And that's a conversation you need to have very early on. When we talk about delivery, it's very much driven by every movie that you deliver having to meet the specific requirements that the sales agent is going to need in regards to their delivery elements. So this is not something necessarily where you say, well, I'll do 3 movies and I, get around with maybe not doing so much. That doesn't apply here. Here it's really about, we need all the things we need. We want everything to be what the buyers would want. And what that is in regards to delivery requirement is something that the sales agent will handle, and they will handle it with you on every picture. And most of the pictures, most of the TV shows need the same thing. So it's going to be the same delivery list for most of the projects that you're making, but it's going to be a per project delivery list, no matter how you look at it. So we talked about the rights, and here I just want to just focus on one thing. You select the idea, you make sure you have all the rights for the idea, script, whatever that a writer gives you, maybe with underlying rights, maybe without. You want to make sure that you verify the chain of title early on. And that is something you can do directly with the person that gives you the title by saying, was this somewhere else before? And if they tell you, yes, I had this production company look at this project before, you need to call them. And need to call them to find out if there's any turnaround provision on this project. Because it's not necessarily that something that everyone always files with the Copyright Office. It might be something that they just have on their mind. It's in their contract. And when they hear about the movie being made by someone, they're just going to make a phone call. That's not something you want to find out in the last minute. So the reality is the turnaround provision may not be registered anywhere at all. And even a chain of title lawyer wouldn't be able to find it. It will come up when the closing comes up, because this producer that spent a lot of money on developing this movie is not just going to say, yeah, this movie is produced and I'm just going to say bye-bye to my turnaround fees. That's not going to happen. It happened to me twice that producers that had the project before called me up and asked for money. And every time I had to pay it from my producing fees because I wasn't budgeted for it. It's very painful. So let's not do that. So when you hear about the project having been somewhere else before you pick up the phone, You call the production company or the producer, you ask them about turnaround fees, and you negotiate those fees down. You don't necessarily have to pay what they tell you to pay, because early in the project, and I couldn't have a negotiation because I was late in the project. I was closing every time I got that phone call. What you do is you're early in the project and you signal to this producer that had this project before that if the turnaround fees are too high, you may not do it. So that means the project could never get made unless they negotiate with you what they want to be paid back. How much money did they spend on the movie? Maybe they spent $100,000 and you're only willing to pay 20 or 30. You have a conversation with them about that, and you do have the leverage at this early time to say if your turnaround fees are too high, if you spend too much money on this project before I got it, your problem, not my problem, but I'm not going to be able to include all your fees in the budget because I have a small budget. That's a conversation to be had, and it's stronger to have in the beginning than later. You have to do this for every project in your slate, unless it's an original script that no one had before. Obviously, then you don't have to have this conversation. In that case, however, for every project in your slate, you have to make sure that your development fees are protected, because it could very well be that 2 out of the 3 movies in your slate get made and 1 does not get made. And you spend money on all 3, and now this one movie, you decide, I'm not going to make, I'm deciding I'm going to replace it with something else, which, by the way, happens all the time. We have slates that we work on, and if we're not moving one project forward fast enough, we decide to let it go and put something else in. So this happens. This is not a rarity. This happens a lot. So you want to make sure that when you do a deal with the writer that gives you the project, that you are allowed to get your development fees paid back and put it in as a turnaround clause. You want to do all deals with the LLC. Now this LLC, you're going to have 2 LLCs in this case. You have one for each project in your slate. You have another one for the slate, I should say, call it fund. Let's call it a fund. And then you have a third one that's basically your production company. So if you have different slates going on, you do one slate for the next 3 years, and you do those movies, and they now go and make money, and you're getting your money back, and it's a 5-year play. So after 5 years, you sold all the rights in these movies, and now they're in library status. So that fund, if you want, with those 3 slates, has been produced and is now in a place where it just generates revenues, and that's okay. But now you want to do the second slate, another 3 movies. That would be your second fund if you want, and that's another LLC. So you have the production company here, you have the fund number 1, LLC, fund number 2, LLC, and that's how you drive your slate forward. And then every movie in the slate needs to be protected separately as well, so that the deals you do on that particular movie are not hurting the other movies in the slate. So it's basically a 3-level structure, if you want, in this case, versus when we talked about our first class and we had one project, we had one LLC for the project, and then we had the production company, and that was it. So now we're separating our funds from the production entity that's basically the holding the hub over all of this. So the project LLC is the one you do all the deals with. The fund is going to be the entity that raises the money for the slate, and the production company is basically one that owns it all and manages it all. So that's how you look at the structure. So when you secure an idea and protect the idea, the way to do it is obviously with an option agreement or a acquisition agreement, or maybe a right of hire agreement. These are the ways to secure an idea. You protect it by making sure you register it with the Copyright Office or the Writers Guild office. So you want to make sure that your idea is always protected through any agency that's an official agency that shows you have the rights. And there are different agencies in different countries. So some of us who come from different countries, they might have different, I should say, copyright component agencies. For us in the US, it's usually the Writers Guild that we can register the idea with, or the Copyright Office that we can register the idea with as well. In the development phase, by the way, if anyone has questions, just stop me.
Yeah, sorry, this is Cami. I
Hi,
have a
Cami.
question about the different LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
So for each project, if you're putting a little bit of money into a development project, if you're you've got a writing project on a writing agreement on a different project, do you have different LLCs for each project?
You have different LLCs for each project, and you have a turnaround clause to track those development fees. That's number one. But for the fund structure, these development costs can be part of the fundraise that you're making, and then you allocate them to each project. So one area is, I need development money for all these 3 films, and here's the budget for all the 3 films in development monies that I need. And then what you need them for, you're going to track on each project level, because the idea is the development money that you get will be repaid out of the budget of that project.
Right.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, and so you're going to create a different LLC for each project.
Yes.
Apart from the accounting, you also want a separate LLC, like apart from
Yes.
separate accounting. Okay.
Basically, you have one fund LLC for 3 projects where you track your development cost, and you have one LLC for the project that will help you with turnaround fees.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
great question. Thank you.
One more question, Jeanette
Yeah, go ahead.
and Michael here. Excuse me. So I understand, why it makes sense to have individual LLCs for each one of the projects, and I certainly understand the concept that all of those roll up into some, higher level entity, LLC or otherwise, that ultimately has majority ownership in those different, projects. I guess it's maybe a question that will come up, later that you can answer, but very specifically, how do you, in a legalistic way, associate those LLCs with that higher level LLC or corporate entity, whatever that is, in the right way, to make sure that you've got the right ownership, et cetera, as well as you have the ability to do different things financially one way or the other, right? Because that's, I can see some issues with that. So it's a general, I guess it's a specific question, and if you don't want to answer it now, later is fine. But
no, I'm happy to answer it. I can answer it the way we do it. There might be different ways. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I always have to say that.
Yep.
There might be a brilliant lawyer out there who has a much better solution than I do. And specifically for you, because you're in another country, this may not be applicable. But the way we do it is we have an LLC that is owned by the mothership, call it. So Align Cinema is the production company. The funds we're raising, Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, and then is the production company. All these entities, all these LLCs are owned by the mothership, if you want, owned by the LLC. We don't really have a situation, to be honest, that we have investors in any of these LLCs. Our investors, first of all, most of them are from Europe, and most of them don't really want to be in an LLC because there comes liability with that. If the LLC gets sued, then all of a sudden the investor gets sued. They don't want to deal with that. They want to get profits, which you can allocate. They don't necessarily have to have membership interest in any of the LLCs to make the money with the LLC, because they get profit allocations and they're protected through the collection agencies that are like escrow agencies that pay them regardless. So they don't need the extra protection necessarily to be in the LLC. And that gives us a clean LLC for everything. So I can own the movie LLC, I can own the fund with Align Cinema, and I own Align Cinema. So all the ownerships are the same in our structure.
And I just follow-up question here, 2 questions actually. So an LLC, I mean, there's a lot of trade-offs between the different types of corporate entities, right? LLCs versus, S corps or partnerships, whatever, right? But I guess in this particular case, based on your experience, LLCs are pretty much always the right way to go in terms of the corporate entity?
For us, yes. An S corp has a lot of, and I hate paperwork, a lot of structuring. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just sorry to say, I'm being lazy on that front. The LLC to me is easier because it's a flow-through entity. We can, I mean, this is CPA talk now, and my CPA knows better, but it is an entity that is, depending on where it's located, easier way to handle tax-wise, and I don't have to do a lot of paperwork. I can just do my tax return, and that's it. So it is a simpler entity just for management of it all, at least for us. And other people like different things. I have a colleague who loves S corps. She goes on and on about that, and And I'm like, okay, do whatever. To me, it's like too much work. But that's just me. I think the system or I think the basic idea can probably work with other forms of business structures as well. Again, I don't do those because they're too much work. For me, the LLC structure is the simplest. I start always with one in a state in the US. I don't even know where I'm shooting these movies. So I usually start with an LLC in New Mexico. I let it sit there until I know where I'm going. And when I know where I'm going, the entity is going to be the mother entity of wherever I'm going. Let's say I'm shooting something in Germany. So the LLC is then the company that I would take to Germany, where I have to create a company in order to be able to get the subsidies there. So I take the LLC places depending on where I'm shooting, but if I don't know yet, I leave it there first, and then I structure and figure out, oh, I'm going to shoot in New Mexico, or actually I'm going to shoot in Chicago, or wherever I go. But these things can move, and they become a foreign entity in that new state that I'm shooting. So it's basically the advantage for me is also that I can move them places where I need to move them.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think another thought that I've had, because I've got everything set up as LLCs and I've associated those to my company in Japan, and Japan's very different in how it works in this way, but that's a separate story. But I can see advantages and disadvantages of the pass-through, right, that happens with an LLC. There are cases where it's very beneficial, on a personal level, and then it can also be disadvantageous in other situations. So again, this can be a follow-up for later, but I'm particularly interested in sort of this area of how you set up the legal entities the right way.
Yeah, well, the pass-through, let me just talk about that. The way and again, I'm not a CPA, but my understanding is this: because I have a collection agent in between, I never get like the full amount. I never get the license fee paid to me directly. It doesn't, because the license fee gets paid to the collection agent that they're either in Hungary or in Holland for tax reasons. So they pay everyone on the waterfall, and I only get my profits. So because of that, I only get what I have to pay taxes for. And I obviously pay the taxes for that in combination with how I pay my taxes. And because it's combined in one company, I have to look at my entire company, how much money did the company make, and then follow basically everything runs through until to the mothership, if you want, and then I have to pay my taxes there. But that's a simple structure how we do it, how we have done it with our CPA, because I have nothing ever comes directly to me. And if you have a movie that is a $10 million movie that makes $15 million in revenues, you don't want that to come to you, because it's a nightmare, especially with an LLC that you have to pay 30% taxes on. So no, I let it go through the collection agent. They pay everyone, and then I get whatever is left after the investor is paid, after everyone is paid. And then obviously the profits I make, I have to pay taxes on. And then it's up to my personal tax status where I am. What are my taxes at that point? And I don't even know, because every year is kind of different depending on what movies we're doing. So I think it's one where I would say the personal structure is something that you need to look at on your personal situation, particularly because you're in a different country, right? And I can only give you a basic overview, given that I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a CPA. I can only tell you how we do it and how our CPA has structured it on a very simple overview. But I can't go into details because I am not a CPA. I just know that we don't pay for anything that just hits us, that is not ours. So we just pay for what we make, in essence. That's really the summary of it all.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I appreciate you providing that long answer. Thank you.
Of course. Let's see by the way, I don't see the chat for some reason. If anyone has questions, and I don't see the chat, just interrupt me. It's all good. So where was I? So we want to make sure, long story short, that whatever we develop, if we don't make it, that we have a way of getting that money back through a turnaround provision. So for the financing deals, I always go ahead and look at who are the sales agents I can work with. Ideally, I want to do more than one project with that sales agent, because it gets me a better deal with them as well. I do need them to be bankable. And so I always look at, okay, if I have 3 pictures in my slate, can I do all 3 with exchange? Can I do all 3 with Lionsgate? Can I do all 3 with maybe Lakeshore or Radiant Film, whoever I choose? You know, I choose someone that has similar projects to what is in my slate, or at least for a majority of what's in my slate. So since our slates are a mix between documentaries and TV series and films, we have more than one sales agent because we can't do it all with one sales agent because not everyone does all these projects. So they're very different ones. So I go and figure out with Jim, of course, who should we do these 2 documentary series with? Who should we talk about this TV series with? And who should we talk about these 2 movies with, or these 3 movies with? Now for us, being that the slate are what I call varied, meaning different kind of content, we have to do it that way. But for you, if maybe you say, well, I'm only doing horror movies, or I'm only doing Christmas movies with Hallmark, or I'm only doing romantic comedies, or I'm only doing movies for 5 million budget, and here's what they are. You know, if you have a framework of your slate genre, if you want, then you can go to one sales agent and say, I'm going to do these 5 movies, and what deal can you give me? And oftentimes they will reduce their marketing fees, they will reduce their sales fees, their expenses. So there is a deal to be made with the sales agent. You do want them to give you sales estimates per project. So it's not, in this situation, you can't just go and say, after these 3 movies, what are the sales estimates combined? That's not a thing. They will give you sales estimates for each project, as you have seen in the first course, how that works. And the sales estimates vary from country to country based on the genre, based on the budget, based on the talent, the cast, the director. All these things vary. I mean, globally viable projects have a certain range of things, but if you have an art house movie, or if you have a let's say horror movie, they sometimes have different numbers simply because of the genre that they are. And also it has to do with what is the rating? Is it a PG-13? Is it an R-rated movie? Which is it? And so we have to change our sales estimates on that too. And when I say we, it's really the sales agent. What we do when we do a slate, we estimate what the sales agent will do in order for us to do the fundraise. So we have a basic conversation with the sales agents to say, are we in the right realm here, or are we like totally off? And they usually give us feedback to say, yeah, no, this is close enough, because they want to make sure that we will go out and raise the money before they dive into giving us sales estimates for 5 movies. So we just want to get some feedback from them to say, yeah, these numbers make sense for this movie, these numbers make sense for that movie, and or this TV show. So we want to get feedback from the bankable sales agent for each project in our slate. And it's important for the did someone say something?
Yeah, sorry, this is Cami.
Cami, yeah, go ahead.
Do you discount what the sales agents tell you? Like,
yeah, I do usually discount it a little bit in my in my own finance plan.
Right. Is there a certain percentage that you
I
discount?
usually go by like 10%. I'm not discounting it more because here's the thing. If it's someone who's not bankable, I would probably discount it by 20, maybe 25, because they're not bankable. So I don't really know what their numbers are worth. And I may, in the end of the day, not use them anyway because they're not bankable. But if they are a sales agent that does only pre-sales and I don't have to do a gap loan, I can take those pre-sales anywhere, and not every financier requires a bond. So I have options if I don't need gap. But if I do need gap, I will have to have a bankable sales agent. So in that case, depending on who it is, I apply discounts. But sometimes, depending on who it is, I don't need to apply discounts because I know their numbers are real. The numbers are most of the time they're real. Here's the other thing. If I don't do the discounting, and sometimes I just let it be, the bank will do it. The bank that will give me the money will look at these numbers and say, yeah, we don't buy them like that. We're going to discount them. And that's where the discounting that you've learned about, Cami, applies. So when you see we did a deal on a picture where we had 35% pre-sales and we have unsold rights of whatever number. So the bank will look at the pre-sales and discount them, sometimes down to 50%. And say, yeah, with that pool of collateral is only worth 50% to us. that automatically obviously discounts the entire loan. And that's how they look at it. And sometimes they will also say, we're going to discount the pre-sales at 50%. We'll only give you 50% for all your pre-sales that you made. And then we'll look at the gap component and we're only giving you 10% of the budget. You could get 20, but they're already taking it down to 10. So if I have a bank that does this, I have to take that into consideration for the numbers I have been given.
Yeah.
So that's how I apply. I might not be as aggressive as the bank, but I will apply some discounting just because of the feedback I get from them.
Okay, thank you.
If they bank the numbers the way they are, Cami, I won't apply discounting because the bank is really my information source for market verification and for projection verification.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Of course. So when we get term sheets for each of our project, right? We get a term sheet that says from the bank that says per project, I see you have these pre-sales for project A. We have these pre-sales for project B. We have these pre-sales for project C. The bank will say, we'll give you a term sheet that will reflect the per project situation, and then they might give you one term sheet that reflects the slate, where they give you maybe blended rates and say, we had this many, we give you this much for these pre-sales, this much for these pre-sales, this much for these pre-sales, and when we put it all together, it comes to this percentage for all of them. The same for the gap. So sometimes I always do want them to give me per project term sheet, but then they also give me an overall for the slate term sheet that says, we're going to give you this much for these things. And so you know, for your entire slate, here's how much debt you will have for the entire slate. And sometimes it's easier to calculate in terms of slate financing to see, what is it?
American Airlines, 454. Can I go to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll see, basically, it's in this one. You see a term sheet that will tell you for the slate what the debt component is, and that's all the investors wants to see, and that's all we want to see in the end. How much debt do we have to pay, and how do we pay it? So it could be a per project term sheet. It could also be an overall more film slate term sheet that we'll get from the bank, or we will get a term sheet one way or the other. And that's something we need when we put the financing together for the slate. And when we do the collection agency agreement, now this is something that will go on a per project basis again. So for this movie, we have these investors, this much money to be paid to these people, and so forth. What the collection agent will not do, at least they haven't done it with us, maybe they'll do it with anyone else, they still want to have a collection account per project. So then the reports they send will go to all investors. So what that means is we will have them send reports to everyone that's involved in every movie. And that could be the same people because they're all in the slate. So an investor could have given me a third of their investment for movie A, another third of the investment for movie B, and then 40% of their investment for movie C. And then they get reports for all of them, which is fine. I don't want to go through the hoop of collecting the reports and then sending it out. I have the collection agent send it out to all the investors, even if the investors are the same investors for all the movies. That's how we handle it, because I like these to come from the collection agent directly. So they will go on a movie by movie collection agency account. So we know how it works. We've seen the waterfalls for a per movie structure. This will not change for the collection account management agreement, where the waterfall is a per project waterfall. It's not a slate waterfall, if you want, for them. Now for us, when we do our slate financing, we do a slate waterfall where we incorporate what movie is produced at what time, what movie generates monies at what time, and then we run the cash flow for the entire slate. So for us, we do the slate performance thing, but we know what each movie will have in regards to waterfall components because we have the movie deals. We just combine them in one slate financing structure, so it's all overseeable. So it's not like we have to put every movie in there. Now, what I'm going to do, and I don't know if it's today or not, I think I have to see. I do have slate structures where I put in every movie their different finance plans and their different recoupment schedules, because here's the reality. Every movie is different. Even though they're in a slate, the movies still have different components. This movie has this much incentive. This movie has this much gap. This movie has no gap, or it's a TV series and it doesn't get gap. So everything is structured in the slate per movie, but then the slate will tell me how much incentive do I get for 3 movies? How much equity do I have to raise for all this content? How much debt do I have to pay to the bank? What are my non-recoupable finances on all movies? So the slate will combine it all, but the detail on the slate will be per movie. And we will do one of those, not today, but in general, since we're talking about financing, I just wanted to mention that. Let me see here if I'm missing something. I think I've talked about everything. If you guys have questions, please interrupt me. So for the production, the way we put it in a slate is every movie has a certain period where it's produced. And then there's not going to be, at least in our slate, a time period that we have where we have 2 movies going at the same time. We've never had that, and I don't ever want that, because I want to be able to keep my eye on these productions. So you will find a production schedule and a delivery schedule that has to do with every movie. And in the slate, that means I have a production date, production start, and I have a delivery date. It's not the production end, it's the when I deliver the movie, because the production end is obviously the last day of principal photography. But I also have to do post-production, which will generate my delivery. The banks and the buyers are only interested in 2 things. What do I pay when I buy this movie at a market, which is the pre-sale down payment, if you want. And then when do I have to pay the rest, which is the delivery date. So for our finance plan, we do the same thing. We look at how much money do we get when we sell the movie to the distributor, the 20% down payment on the pre-sales. And then when do we get the rest? When we deliver the movie. Now that money that comes in on delivery obviously pays back the loan, pays the post house if we have a deferment, pays the equity investor, pays the profits, etc. So the waterfall itself hasn't changed. However, in our slate, we need to mark when money comes in and when money goes out. So we're marking, we get money for down payment, we have to pay money for production, we get money for delivery, and we don't get all the money at the same time. So sometimes, like with Netflix, when you do a deal with Netflix, we've seen it, they pay over 2 years, equal installments every quarter. So if I have a movie that I'm selling to them, my deal is going to be very different, and my cash flow looks different for that movie than a movie that I get 20% when I pre-sell it, and then I get 80% when I deliver the movie. So those things change depending on who the buyer is. And the way we do it for production and delivery, we put a cash flow plan together that says, here's the production, here's the delivery, and here's what money comes in at what time. So that's just something you have to remember when it comes to production and delivery in terms of slates. But it's not any different when you look at the details of it than you would have seen in our first course on a project basis. These steps that we're taking here are the same steps. They're just adjusted for the slate conversation that we're having. And that's something when we go into the cash flow and the slate structures, we will get to hear more about, and you remember everything I said. You don't have to remember it right now. Distribution. When we distribute the film, obviously not every film is distributed by the same entity. So maybe we have the sales agent that sells it. Maybe we have one sales agent that sells it to the buyers, but the buyers might be different for each project. So we might have buyers that buy all 3 projects. Sometimes we see that too, which is beautiful. So sometimes what we do is we sell all 3 projects to one person. In Germany, they buy all 3. And then we have, the English rights being sold by 3 different, or being bought by 3 different English buyers. So we've seen that all. In the end of the day, all that matters to us is how much money is paid to us. It's not even important who pays it. It's just how much money is coming in. What do we have to for distribution revenues? What do we have to pay in the waterfall to all these different people in every single different movie? What do we pay all together? And how do we run the profit structures? The profit for each movie is going to be summarized and becomes the profit of the slate. That's kind of how, that's just the different, but it's basically just counting up every movie to figure out what is my profit and what does the equity investor get and what are the expenses. The expenses for each movie are the same because we pay a loan back, we pay a sales agent, we pay distribution fees for the US, we pay maybe a junior lender, we pay the equity back, we pay the premium. So on a movie basis, the waterfall is the same than what we learned before in the first class for the movie. For the slate, it's obviously a summarized version of this for all 3, all 4, all 5 movies, which however we want to see it. So it summarizes it all to say what is the slate performance, because every movie has different revenues and different expenses. And in the end, we want to see how is it all comprising on the entire film fund, on the entire slate. And that is something we look at in general in order to talk to an investor to say, particularly, well, even though this movie doesn't have great international sales projections and it may not perform as good as this movie, well, we have this movie that we believe will perform a lot better. So we will be able to put projects in like an art house movie that may not have 65, 70% from the international revenues, may even not have 20% from the US. But we really believe it could be something that could maybe get an Academy Award. And if we have a movie in the slate that has an Academy Award, that's great for the library value. So we will look at these things more general in terms of what does the slate do? What does the library value of this slate do? If one of the movies doesn't optimally perform financially, but elevate the slate itself in a library conversation because we have an Academy Award contender in here. Obviously, it's a risky thing to do, but if we have a movie that we know for sure is going to make more money because the sales agent told us, yeah, I can get 85% for international and I get 45% from the US, and the pre-sales are supporting these projections, we know we have a movie in there that can come up with, or that can basically cover what we believe is missing in this for this one movie. So a slate will offer us a little bit more, I should say, flexibility on how we choose certain movies. That art house movie that we chose here, that to add in the slate would probably not be one that we maybe do on their own, because we're like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't make money. How do we know it's going to get the Academy Award? We don't know. So that's why we already did this. That's why I would, say that if you have a strong movie in the slate that can cover something like this, a movie that you believe is strong for library value, not so great on the movie level itself, you can add that. There's something to think about. So the financing that we've talked, do we have questions about this so far? Okay, great. So the financing we talked about in our first class include these elements: equity, debt, incentives, crowdfunding, in-kind services, deferments, music investment, brand sponsorship, and we're going to talk about slate financing at the end, a little later, and fund structures. So these are the finance options that we have dealt with. And we know, if you we'll just go through this quickly as a reminder, we know a senior loan is a combination of a pre-sale loan and a gap loan. We know it recoups in first position from distribution revenues. We know it's secured against assets, which are the pre-sale contracts and the unsold rights, based on the sales estimates that we have been given or that we have structured from the sales agent, by the sales agent. And we know that in most cases, this debt will not be held more than, we've never held it more than 24 months, but I know other people that have other deals have had a senior loan that was 36 months. Normally, this loan is paid first from all distribution revenues and usually doesn't default, meaning it's always paid off. I've never had a senior loan that I couldn't pay back, and I really have to think about I don't even know a producer that couldn't pay their senior loan back. Well, maybe there are some idiots out there, but none of the people we work with. So because it's a low risk kind of investment for the bank, it's something that we don't necessarily have to worry about when the bank puts a lien on our movie, which they do. They're not taking the house or the car that we own as a security. The movie is the security. If the movie doesn't pay back the loan from pre-sales and sales, the bank will take over the movie. They will own the movie. They will sell all the rights that are still available. We call it fire selling because they were likely sold for a lot less than what was projected by the sales estimates by the sales agent, with the sales projection being the sales estimates. So this will likely be a situation where we'll lose money. So again, never happened to me, but we need to mention it because there is a possibility that any of these loans cannot be paid back. Because it's the first position, and the movie has to really suck. And I mean, even then, because the gap loan is only half of the sales that we can sell after we sold the pre-sales, there's still coverage there enough for this loan to be repaid. So we should not worry about it too much. And that is also something we obviously communicate with our investor. Now, investors sometimes don't want to be equity. And that's when they say to us, I want to be a mezzanine lender or a junior loan. I want to give you a junior loan or be a junior lender if you want. They're not really lenders, still an investment. But in this case, they say, I don't want to wait until the end. I want to make money before. So the advantage for the investor that becomes a junior lender or a mezzanine investor is that they can have a second lien on the movie after the senior lender has been paid off. So the junior lender or the investor that doesn't want to be equity will have the option to hold a default lien against the movie, which they don't have when they are equity investors. And that is sometimes the reason why they want to be mezzanine lenders. They can charge higher fees for this investment. Sometimes they even can charge a little profit participation. And where they sit is they use the collateral that the bank has not used. So when the bank does their gap portion, where they only consider 50% of the unsold rights to be a collateral for them, this lender will take basically the collateral the bank has left on the table as collateral for their loan. So it's usually anywhere between 5 to 10% of the budget that they give us, depending on who they are. It's usually not more. It could be that if you do a wrong deal, like I think I mentioned this to you, I did a deal that was way too short, not knowing that it sometimes takes longer for this mezzanine loan to be repaid. I think my deal was 2 years, as it was with the senior lender. And I wasn't ready to pay off this junior lender, and I lost the movie to them. So the idea for you is don't do that. Only happened to me once. I'm still crying about it. But you want to make sure that your term is at least 3 years. So you have time to pay these people back. Now, if the interest rate is high, you shouldn't necessarily go to 5 years, but 3 years is a good number if it's like 5 to 10% of the budget. That should come in by that time. And if you want to save, be safe, just do 5% of the budget if you want someone like that in the waterfall. So they recoup after the junior lender has recouped, second position, and they recoup before the equity is being paid back their investment and their premium. You guys know this, so I'm going to move on. The bridge loan is, as we mentioned earlier, something that is only covering the pre-production phase while we're waiting for the bond company to close. Now, if you don't pay them, if there is a finance fee that's not enough in the budget, you're going to be paying it from producer fees. And if you don't have enough producer fees, you're going to be paying it from the waterfall. This is how they're structured. And we had one example, or we will have one example of that in one of the quizzes that we talk about. That's really the basis. Normally, that loan does not go beyond 8 weeks. I mean, I don't think I've ever used it for more than 6 weeks. So that is something you want to budget automatically in your budget in regards to finance fees. And you can call, for example, Walter Jostin at Blue Rider. That's all they do, bridge loans. As far as I remember, that's maybe finishing funds too. I only know them as a bridge lender. And they can tell you what they're charging per week right now. And they can also tell you what their terms are. So it's something, you can call Walter up and says, Jeanette from Alliance Cinema told me to call you. I want to budget a bridge loan in my movie budgeting. What should I expect is being paid and maybe they'll give you the terms. Normally, he's very open, he's very nice. I don't know if any of you have worked with him. Super nice guy. So you can ask for that in advance and then put this into your budget. Risk mitigation, we know how to mitigate the senior loan. We do it by choosing credit-worthy bankable sales agents. That's really all there is. And we let the bank decide how much money they want to give us, because that is the risk mitigation that is built in, so we don't have to worry about it. They will value the money that they give us for the pre-sales by looking at a territory in terms of a tier. Tier 1 territories are all the good ones, the strong ones, the credit-worthy ones. Tier 2 territories are all the question mark territories, I call them, where the bank has a spotty track record in their repayment. Tier 1, they know they always pay on time, no problem there. Tier 2 is we don't always know if we get our money, says the bank. And they will value each contract depending on if it's a tier 1 territory or a tier 2 territory differently in terms of discounts. So they might see a Germany deal and say, okay, Germany pays $1 million. We're going to pay the full 100% of that pre-sale. No problem. And then they see maybe Malaysia, a deal coming in for like $10,000, and they say, yeah, we're going to give you either nothing or we'll give you 5,000. Those are the options, maybe because they hadn't had good experience with Malaysian buyers. That's kind of what is reflected on the term sheet that they'll give you, and it will exactly tell you which territory is tier 1, which territory is tier 2 for this bank that you're going with, and you have a lot of options on that. They want bond insurance if there is a gap. Not every bank does gap. Not every bank needs a bond company if they're only doing pre-sales. So there are options for you there. They want the sales agent to be bankable. I already said that. They will look at the projections and they make their own assumption, and you will know it when they tell you. We don't think, the unsold territories are worth 20% of the budget. We think they're only worth 10% of the budget, and that's all they'll give you, and you will find out about that. Junior loan, the risk here is just, to sum it up, the term being too short. That is the only risk. The other, I should say, nerving thing with those loans is they're usually expensive, which is why I avoid them. Who wants to pay 18 to 20% a year? I mean, it's just silly, but they're expensive, and that's what you deal with. The bridge loan, they take a risk in the entire movie, which is why they will let the bond company issue a letter of intent. And that letter of intent will list all the things the bond company still has to prove and approve in order to issue a bond. That letter of intent will be the decision-making factor whether or not the bridge lender will give you a bridge loan or not. If on that letter of intent is something that the bridge lender says, yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, I'm not so sure about that, then they won't give you a bridge loan, and then you have to figure something else out. Hardly ever happens, but could happen, theoretically. If the bond company puts in something in the letter of intent that is iffy for the bridge lender, you need to talk to the bond company and say, how can we fix this? What do you need from me in order to take this portion out or make it less risky? What do you need me to do? So it's a conversation with the bond company for the most part to make the bridge lender comfortable. And they will recoup in certain positions. In this case, they recoup after the senior loan, before the equity, if their fees have not been paid by your finance fees or your producer fees. The money that they're advancing is money that's budgeted, so that's not a problem for them to get back, because they're simply just advancing the pre-production phase, which you have budgeted, so there's no problem there. But the fees they're charging, you may not have budgeted those in your finance plan because you're like, I don't need one, or I only need one for 2 weeks, and I'm not worried about this bond company, and then you're worried about the bond company. So this is kind of what the risks are for this. The non-recoupable finance sources, all they do, which are subsidies, grants, music investments to pre-buy publishing rights, brand sponsorship to put product placements, product integration in your movie, some donations you may have if you do a nonprofit project, crowdfunding, in-kind services. Those are all things you don't have to pay back. What they do is they decrease the risk for the investor, which is why they want them in there. So any of those things need to be in there. And you guys know what they are. Production incentives are driven by whatever state deems any part of your budget as an eligible expense that applies for that state or that country. And they're all different. Depending on where you're going, the rules are different. So the film office will have to tell you based on your budget, this is how much money we'll give you. And that is something that you can bank with an incentive lender to give you a loan in advance for this incentive. And then the state will pay the incentive lender back. You don't have to. And you kind of know this. And then the international incentives are following the same rule with the addition that you have to have a local co-producer in order to get your mitts on whatever the incentive in this different country is. So if you're shooting something in France, you need a French co-producer. If you're shooting something in Belgium, you need a Belgian co-producer, because only the local producers get their hands on the specialized incentives and grants in addition to the tax incentives that are offered in the country. They will get the rights from you for the period that they're going out to fund the extra subsidies and grants for you. And after the subsidies, grants, and tax incentives are given to you, and they don't need the rights anymore, the rights will be assigned back to you. This is kind of the structure, how it works. These local production companies that get these local incentives for you will also likely be your local production service entity that will do the production, which is very helpful because they know all the deals and they can save you money. They also have great crews because they're used to Hollywood coming there and shooting there for the most part. So it's something to think about. I usually pay them 5% of whatever they get for me. That's the producer fee that they get, so that they're incentivized to get me, a significant amount of money and do a good job in the territory. They will also be responsible for selling this movie or this TV show to a local buyer. So if I have a German production, I have a German production company going and get the incentives and the grants and all the monies for me. They will also talk to ProSieben, which is a German network station, to sell the movie as a license to them. It is required for many of these European subsidy countries. They always give us more subsidies, or mostly, than what we get in the US, so that's why it's interesting. But they require that a local distribution deal is in place. So in America, we don't need that. We can go to New Mexico, shoot a movie, get our tax incentive, and we don't need to sell it to Netflix for the US. We don't need to sell it to anyone for that matter. We just go make the movie there. That's it. In Europe, for most of the European territories, you need to have a local sale because they look at it as a local content, which gets you a higher license fee most of the time in that territory than what you would normally get as a license fee just selling it to them. So it is a requirement, and that is something the local producer would help you with. So this is kind of the basics of the international one. Brand integration, you know that. You want to have a conversation with the brand. Their message meets your message. It's nice integration. It fits the character. It fits the story. They give you money. Everyone's happy. So we know how that works. By the way, if I'm going too fast and you don't remember any of these things, you stop me, okay? I'm going through these very quickly because we've had them in the first course.
Also, Jeanette, you're about halfway through the class. I don't know if you want to do
I
it.
know. I'm going to stop before the first assignment, which I'm nearly there.
Okay.
So that is that. So stop me if I'm going too fast because you may not remember any of this as well, but this was all discussed in the first class. So where am I? Crowdfunding, you know what it is. You can use it or not. I think it's good to use if you want to create awareness for a project. I think it has a lot of value for that. To me, it's too much headache to raise my money with crowdfunding because it's a lot of work. But you might know, I have a great structure with Kickstarters. I know my people that can make a great trailer, and I want to raise awareness for this horror movie that I'm making, and it's great. Therefore, I think it's a good thing. Doesn't cost money. You don't have to pay it back. Here are some of the companies that people have accessed. Some of my partners have accessed. You'll see it on here. Some of it may be someone that you have worked with. If not, put them into Google and figure out their specialized funding structures, if you will. But they all kind of work the same way. The goal is, or the ideal is, you don't have to pay them back. The music investment and the music investors are really only interested in one thing: music rights in your movie and a sales agent that knows how to sell this movie. Because if the sales agent sells this movie great and well, they're going to make money because their music is going to be in the movie that is sold all over the world. And that's what they're interested in, because revenues from music publishing from all these different sources all over the world is what they make money with. So they pre-buy our music publishing rights we get a bunch of money, and then they go off, they own everything, and they sell it off. It's part of their music library. They use it for other things too. When, you know, when they have it, they have it. So distribution revenues is one thing, but they also use it from other places where they put the music of a movie maybe into a commercial, or, you know, maybe something else. But that's kind of revenues that they use because they own the publishing rights. Yeah, so they raise a fund like we would raise a fund. So it's basically the same structure as you. I mean, I know Cutting Edge in England, they raise money from their investors there, and they're saying to them, we're going to put this and this and this much money into these movies, and here's all the ways we can make money with those movies. And they basically structure a fund by showing the investor all the various options of revenues that they have with the music that they buy from us and other producers. So this is a case study that I threw together to just walk you through a bridge loan. It's basically, we have a movie that's $10 million, will be bonded, and the pre-production money is applicable here, and we don't have the money yet free to us, so we need to get the bonder, this bridge lender, to give us money. So in this case, the finance plan is exactly the finance plan you know about and know. You have done this finance plan a gazillion times, so there's nothing new here with how much the project valuation is, what are the pre-sales, the junior loan we have in here, the incentive loan we have in here, the distribution fees we're charging, and what the collection agent charges. So all these elements you're very familiar with because we've done a lot of finance plans like this. Now the bridge lender will finance 25% of the budget, which we deem is money we need for pre-production. They'll charge 2.5% of a fee every week. So then the question is, will they get paid or not? So I did a little calculation here, which, by the way, you have the Excel sheets, the corresponding Excel sheets. So if this is hard for you to see, you can click on your Excel sheets and you have the entire Excel sheet in front of you. So here we are. You see the finance plan, nothing different. The equity is about 35%, which is usually what we have. So if you want me to walk you through this finance plan, you can tell me, but I think you know this. You know what the regular finance plan looks like with pre-sales and a loan and incentives and equity. This is our general finance plan we always do. It's nothing to do with the bridge loan, simply is how we finance the movie. Now, what I want you to look at is, here's the recoupment schedule. Hold on. Right now, you don't see in the recoupment schedule, you don't see anything paid to a bridge lender, because you're going to see in the next slide, it's not necessary. And why is it not necessary? We can show you here. Because the bridge lender gave us 25% of the budget, $10 million, so $2.5 million is what they gave us for pre-production. They charged us 2.5% per week. We have 6 weeks of pre-production, so they're charging us fees of $375,000. Now here we have to look, how do we pay this? We're looking at what is the finance fee in the budget. The finance fee in the budget was 5%. So we have budgeted $500,000, which is enough to cover $375,000 in finance fees, because the $2.5 million is paid by the bond company simply because they're basically just advancing budgeted line items. That's all they're doing. So there's no problem with the $2.5 million going back to the bridge lender. The problem is, and here it's not, how do they get their interest paid? So the $375,000 is covered in this first example by the finance fee that we have allocated for this in the budget already, which is $500,000. So we actually have $125,000 above. We have it available to maybe pay to other people that also might give us financing, maybe a finder, or maybe someone else we need to pay a finance fee to. So we have room here, so that's good. In this next example, same movie, $10 million movie, financed the same way. We're doing our international estimates are 75%, US estimate that we're making from US distribution is 2.5. So $11 million is what we're hoping to make with the movie. The finance plan is the same. We have pre-sales, we have our down payment that we're getting, we have a pre-sale loan, we have a junior loan. The fees are all deducted up front, as you see here. We have an incentive loan. The fees again are deducted up front. So all these loans and investments that we have here have a fee connected that is deducted. So we get the net amount. Again, investment that equity needs to put in is $3,520,000. Nothing has changed because, again, the bridge lender has nothing to do with the investment. So here again, we see the recoupment plan is the same because we didn't have any issue with paying the bridge lender back because, see here, even though they charged us 8% per week, these greedy people, which is $200,000, and we have, you know, not enough in the budget because we're only estimated to pay 500,000, we basically have to take the $200,000, or what is it? Well, it's $1 million producer fee. We have to take the balance from the producer fee that we cannot pay. So in this case, we cannot pay the full balance that is due to the bridge lender. So we're missing $700,000 because they're so greedy. So there, the $1.2 million interest is paid by the budgeted amount of 500 and a portion of our producer fee. We're not happy about it, but it's gonna have to happen. So anytime we don't have budgeted enough, they're gonna grab our producer fee, and that's gonna be part of the deal they make with us. So we're okay, fine. We're basically, instead of $1 million, we only get $300,000 in producer fee. We're not happy, but at least we get the movie made. So that's good.
Hey,
So,
Jeanette.
yeah.
So it seems to me like maybe people should just become bridge lenders and not producers because you're in and out in 6 weeks and with a ton of money.
Hell yeah, that's also, you know,
With
a
the
good
least
idea.
amount of risk.
Well, you have to know really the risk is in understanding what the bond company is looking at in order for them to close. And you need to be an experienced producer to understand what the bond company is actually saying, which will then reflect in your risk assessment. And if you're not a producer that has done a lot of productions and knows what the bond company's headaches are, and if you can fix them, it's going to be hard for you to be a bridge lender. So you can't just come and say, oh, I'm just going to put my money in there and it's going to come back because the movie is going to get bonded. What if it doesn't get bonded? What if there's something in the bond company's report or letter of intent that cannot be fulfilled? And you will not know that unless you are a very good producer who has done a lot of production. That is the issue. Does that make sense, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so here's a movie that's going to give us a headache. Same
So,
finance plan. Yeah.
Jeanette,
Yeah.
question. So,
Yeah.
so in the case where the budget line item for financing does not sufficiently cover
Mm-hmm.
the charges from
Yeah.
interest, right?
Yeah.
Which is the second scenario that you went through, and therefore, you know, some of the monies will be repaid out of the budget, some will be repaid out of the producer fee. So, since interest is accrued, you know, it's a weekly, you know, schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
That implies that you have to make sure that you are able to receive payment for sufficient amount of producer fees in that same time frame to be able to pay it back. Otherwise, you're just going to be incurring additional interest, correct?
Correct. And we're going to have that scenario now because, Michael, you're picking exactly the scenario that would be happening if you don't have enough in the budget and you
Yeah.
don't have enough producer fee that I'm going to talk about next. So if you let me
Okay.
just do this,
Sure.
you can ask me again next time. You can tell me if I answer your question. But here's the next scenario because Michael is already foreseeing what I'm doing. So the finance plan again for the movie is the same. Nothing has changed. How we finance the movie is irrelevant to the bridge lender, which is why I'm just blowing through it because you guys have done 1 million of these finance plans. So here we have a situation, and that's why I'm putting this slide first. We have, again, the pre-production is the same. We're paying $2.5 million in pre-production, and that's the loan they give us. The 8% interest is still getting us $1.2 million that we have to pay in interest. So altogether, we have to pay this bridge lender $3.7 million, including the 2.5. The 2.5 million is not the issue because the bond company will pay that, but the 1,200,000 is an issue because it's fees that we either have budgeted or have a producer fee for. Now, in this situation, we have budgeted $500,000, and the producer fee is only 5%, not 10%. So we're basically missing $200,000 because 500,000 producer fee and 500,000 in the budget only gives us $1 million. We have not paid their interest. We're missing $200,000. How do we pay that? Well, here's how we pay that. We pay it in the waterfall. So the deal with the bridge lender is if you don't pay me from the bond company your finance fee and or your producer fee, you have to put me, the bridge lender, in the waterfall. And I want to be right. I want to be before the junior lender and I want to be before the equity just because. So I want to be right after the senior loan, basically, distribution fees, etc., they have to pay the sales agent, otherwise this movie will not go. But the bridge lender goes here. The bridge lender will not agree to go any further down the line. They know that when they sit in this position here, right after the senior loan and the accounting and the distribution fees, they will get their money. Now, if they don't get their money, that's the risk they took, Michael. That's just the risk they took. They're not going to come after me for my house, my car, or anything, because they took the risk when they looked at the bond company's letter of intent to decide, do I feel this is going to close and there is only this much money in the movie, there's only 500,000 in producer fees and 500,000 in finance fees. I already know it's going to get tight as a bridge lender. Am I comfortable enough with this movie that I now look at where what is the finance plan? That's why the finance plan is important. What are the sales estimates? Who is the bank? Who are the sales agent? So for a scenario like this, the bridge lender would look at all the documents and make sure there is a strong movie that is globally viable in order for them to take the risk to go into the waterfall. And that's what they look at. So when they see in the beginning, there may not be enough money for them to get paid, they will look at everything. They will look at our finance plan, they will look at our sales agent, they will look at our estimates, they will look at everything to make sure that their position in the waterfall is a realistic one for them to get paid back. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the only follow-up question I'd have would be that
Yeah.
from their perspective, right, time value of money. I mean, they're, the payment they're going to receive theoretically at some point, through the waterfall on the back end is, could be a couple years out. So they're willing to even take that nominal amount of 200,000, or are they going to pile on top of that additional interest?
They would only take it for a nominal amount like 200,000. So
Got
it would
it.
not, they
Okay.
wouldn't do this deal if, let's say, in the waterfall they have to pay $500,000.
Yeah.
They're making $1 million in fees in 6 weeks. Happy
Right.
about that.
Yeah, right.
Because their interest is already high. That is the only scenario where they say, well, we have a risk here of 20%. We'll take that risk because we're right behind the bank and the sales agent. We think we can make it. We look at this movie. We think we can make a good chunk and the movie is strong. They usually take that risk, but they wouldn't likely do it for more money. So if it would be 300, 400, they would likely not do that deal. They would say to you, increase the finance fees. They could say that and make sure the bond company is okay with it. I don't care where you take it from, but I need you to increase the finance fees to pay us because we're not comfortable with putting more than 200,000 in the waterfall. That would be a conversation they would have with us.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Make sense? Or they could say to us this, Michael, they could say, we're not giving you the money for 6 weeks. We're only giving it to you for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Then you have to figure out where you get the money, talk to the bond company. It's not my place, but that is all I give you.
Yeah. So, it does though raise a big question. I probably had this question in the first class and didn't ask it, but this whole process of developing the budget and lining up the financing, the plan, if you will, it has to be a very iterative process, right? I mean, you start with sort of a template, you go talk to a bunch of different people, you get a lot of information, and then you're essentially just updating that plan over and over until you get all the numbers to sort of, balance out, right?
Well,
I would
here's the
assume.
thing. You start with the project business plan the way we've done it. Let's say if you do a commercial movie, those numbers will be close. If you do a movie that's an art house movie, I would reduce the sales estimates. If you come to me and say, help me with a finance plan, and I look at your project and it's an art house movie with a Japanese lead actor, I would be like, yeah, I don't know. International, maybe 20%. Japan is probably great, but I don't know so I would adjust the revenues subject to the movie that you give me.
Yeah.
And we have done all different movies. So I kind of know, and we talk to these agents a lot and we see how much money they're making. I would adjust it based on what I know, what I have seen the sales agent to go with. And then when we have done it and we have a sales agent that we like, we want to talk to them about our business plan and say to them, we would like you to hire you as a sales agent. Here's the project that we have. Here's our business plan. Here's the script. Here's our attachments that we're thinking of doing because we want their input. Remember, we want always the sales agent input to packaging. And when everyone is happy, they know this process. They know that we have to talk to them in order to firm things up. And they like us talking to them in order to firm things up because they don't want to sell some dud. They don't want to come to them and say, I have this movie with my cousin in the lead. They'll be like, no, it's a great script. Why did you put your cousin in the lead? And you're like, well, I promised my cousin. And they're like, no, put in Jason Statham.
Yeah.
So the point is you want to have that conversation. And based on that conversation, the numbers will be adjusted by them. In
Yeah.
my experience, I usually am very close to the numbers they get back to me because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to put numbers in that they cannot confirm. My whole business plan is sucky then. So
Right.
I go with what I believe they would tell me. And then
Mhm.
it goes up and down, maybe 10% up, maybe 10% down. It's usually the range. But it's very much driven by what I give them. And it's going to be very much driven by what you give them. So the verification process, if we did our job well, will be close to what we gave them.
Yeah.
And that's important because we talk to our investors about giving us money for this once we did all the things we're supposed to be doing. Talent attachments, getting the finance plan formalized, get everything confirmed. But we tell the investor it's going to be in this time, it's going to be in this framework. If it is obviously a big jump, everyone is not happy because then the investors
Right.
are giving us money. So then it's like, okay, we should not be making this movie.
Yeah.
We just should not be making it. The end. But if we're doing our job well and we have the right numbers that are close to what the sales agent would give us, we're not changing what we are planning to
Mhm.
get the equity investor into so much.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really the job. And you're right. At that point, it becomes all about firming up what we have and putting all
Mhm.
these other elements in place. Now, when we have the actors and the director and the sales agent goes out and starts pre-selling, things usually go pretty fast. But
Yeah.
that's the crook, getting the right actor and director that values our project and also sees in the script what we see. Because we might think the script is the best thing after sliced bread. Now, the first is the sales agent to tell us not so much.
Yeah.
And we then say, okay, really? And now that the sales agent is not responding or doesn't like the script, we don't need to be sending it out to talent. We need to rethink, either change the script and go back to the sales agent. Would you read a second time? We're so sorry. Because they hate having to read a second time. But we're begging. So they might read the second script and they say, okay, much better. And now you can send it out to talent. But the sales agent that we choose that is right for the project and is bankable is going to give us the first feedback. And they're very honest. They just say, script sucks. Oh, the script is not for us. The gentle answer is the script is not for us, which basically means the script sucks. It's a translation. But that means we need to talk about, how to change it. I usually call and say, I know it's not for you, but would you be okay just giving me some pointers? And it's just 10-minute phone conversations. And then they tell me first act sucks, lead sucks, whatever their problems are. Many times it's stuff that actually has value. And maybe I didn't read the script well. I'm not perfect either. I might think it's a great story. And then they're like, no, Jeanette, what were you smoking? This is terrible. So, the feedback is important. And if we can't get it with the writer to where it needs to be, it's something we need to put on the shelf for now.
Yeah, makes sense. No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the
No, of course, of
explanation.
course. So in the last round of this nonsense, and we're going to continue with some of this probably in the next class because I don't think I'm going to make it through here, as always. I would like you to do this little assignment. So I'm going to put you into, you have this in your PDF. Otherwise, take a picture of this. You have the corresponding Excel sheet where there is a temp Excel sheet in there. I'm going to put you into like 2 groups. And you can work on this together I'm going to give you like 20 minutes. Take a picture of this so I can create the groups because I'm going to stop sharing now. Everyone has a picture, great. So now I'm going to try to put you into groups if I remember this. Hey, Jim, can you come over and help me with this so I don't take forever? Oh, it's a lot of people. I'm going to put you into 3 groups. Wie viel haben wir denn? 16. Yeah, 3 groups. I'm going to put you into 3 groups. How do I do this again here? More breakout rooms.
Yeah.
So I'm going to create 3 breakout rooms. You're going to be assigned to 1 and you just work this using your template so you don't have to start from scratch. Use the template that I sent you for risky business in Hollywood. And this is the finance plan. This is the bridge lender components. This is the assignment that you're going to apply when you make the changes and you tell me what you come up with. I'm going to create the breakout rooms now. 3, ne? 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Assign automatically, yeah? Create.
Go.
I will pop into the breakout rooms in a minute and then open all rooms. Here we go. Why is there only 2 in these, Jim? No, it's 5. 5, 5, 5. Okay,
Yeah.
this works. Okay, great.
So
So we
they'll-
give them 20 minutes
Yeah,
and then they can do this. It gives me a little break. Yeah, I
I
just,
would turn off your
yeah, hold on. Let me just, Michael, did you have a question? Are you guys done?
I think we're done. If assuming we knew what
great.
we were trying to do, yes.
Yes, okay, that's good. So let me check on the other ones. Yeah, I think we're done. Let me go into the other ones and see if they're done. How do I get in there, Jim? I hate this thing. I don't do it enough, by the way. Breakout rooms. So where are they?
The way you can put yourself in.
But you know what it looks like it does here? Rooms. Oh, here we go. 3.
So
So let me, they already ready. Michael's
Okay.
already ready. So I'm going to go in room. Can you lower this? Because I'm blinded by the light. Hold on. Join. See. So I'm going to have group 3 come in first because I want to show them what we did. They
Okay.
got stuck at the evaluation. So let me share that with you right now. I hope I can share. First of all, let me share the screen. So Hakeem, you look at this, and then you see here, what is it doing? Yeah, sharing. Okay, do you see the assignment, Hakeem?
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. So what we need to do is
Ah, okay, yeah.
that what is the valuation of the project? Basically, it's a projection of what the project will generate. And we use that number then also to have the actual projections. So what we're looking at is the project is going to generate 85% of the budget from international distribution revenues, and it's going to generate 35% of the budget from the US. So altogether, what you're going to have, I'm going to click to the next one, is basically $12 million in revenues, right? That's the
Yeah.
first thing that you're going to see. The next thing is we're looking at how much do we have to get from the bridge lender, right? We're looking at first, what is the finance plan? We have 30% of the budget as pre-sales, and the bank is discounting that 30% to 80%. They're only giving us 80% of my pre-sale value as a loan. So we need to do that for the finance plan. So let me just make this yellow here so it looks nice. So then nice. We want this to look nice.
Is this actual assignment thing? Is this somewhere in Canvas?
Yeah, you're going to get this. You
Oh,
actually,
it's not in.
you
It's not in
actually
Canvas.
have, yeah, no,
It's
I
not in
emailed it
Canvas.
to you. I emailed it
Okay,
to you
because
this morning. Yes, you have it in
okay.
your PowerPoint because what we're doing in class
Hmm.
is going to be different than what you see, little different than what you see on
Okay, because I took the figures from Canvas. That's the reason why. That's
Oh,
why.
no, that's
Oh,
a
that's
whole
why.
different, that's a whole different assignment. This
Oh, that's why.
is,
That's why I got confused. So I
oh,
took.
no worries. No worries. It's all good. So I
So
just want to
should
go,
I screenshot this then?
yes, this is what you need to screenshot. You also
Okay.
have it in your PowerPoint that I sent you, but take a screenshot of this and then apply these assumptions. And they're in yellow because when you look at the previous case study that we just walked through, these are the changes, the rest is the same. So I
Okay.
marked them yellow so you know what to focus on in your temp sheet because you have a template Excel sheet that I emailed to you as well this morning, where you
Okay.
can apply all these numbers directly into your template.
So I'm not supposed to use the one from Canvas, but the one from the email.
No, you use the one that I emailed you. Because
Okay
what
then.
we do in this class, I'm going to email you class materials every time before the class. I want you guys to focus on what we're doing here together. You're going to see versions of that in Canvas, obviously. In fact, in quiz 1, there is a question exactly like this. So you're going to see what we're doing here represented in Canvas just in it with different numbers. It's the same thing.
Okay. But
Right?
I should be looking at, instead of going to the Canvas assignment, I should be looking
Right
at for
now.
the email.
Yes, you're looking at the
Okay.
email that I sent this morning, my morning,
Okay.
your
Okay then.
whatever it was, because you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I want you to take a copy of this and copy this and then make the assignments with these assumptions.
Okay, makes sense now, yeah.
Yeah? You
Yeah.
can do that and email it to me, and then you and I will talk about if there is a mistake, where the mistake is, and what we should be changing.
All
So
right
you
then,
have
yeah.
time to do it. It's also midnight for you, so whatever late. I'm not going to make you do it right now. So just look at that,
Yeah.
then look at what you come up with, and
Mm-hmm.
then we can talk about what you get stuck with. Is
All
that,
right then.
and that's for everyone in your group, by the way. So
Okay.
you're gonna get the results anyway, but I want you guys to just do it in your own time and then let me know where you get stuck. I can
All
tell
right
you
then.
the answer is 100,000. If you don't get to 100,000 that you need to put in the waterfall, you need to email me. Otherwise, you
All
don't
right.
need to email me.
All right
Okay?
then. Okay.
All right. So I
So
want to
Jeanette,
jump.
Jeanette,
Yeah?
just to make sure I'm a little bit
Michael,
dummy here.
you're going in and out.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Sound is not great. There is some disturbance in there.
I don't know what that is. All right. Well, I'll hold off here and see if I can fix that first.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
a little distorted.
Yeah, it's just a little distorted. I don't know what it is. Michael, you can email me the question too if you have a question, so I can respond
Yeah,
to that.
that sounds good. Yep.
Oh, now you're good. Now you're good. Go
Now
ahead. Go
good?
ahead now.
No, it was just a simple question, which is, so you want us to fill out that temp sheet, basically, the second tab.
Yes.
Okay, got
Correct.
it. Thanks.
So when I send you assignments in general, I'm glad we're talking about this. I will send you the PowerPoint that we will be discussing in class. I will send that to you before the class, so you have it. In case you don't see anything clearly on the screen, you can simply look at your own PowerPoint. You can print it or whatever you want to do. The assignments that we will be doing in class, I will always send you the Excel sheet that's corresponding with that, and I will send you a template that you can work with. That way you don't have to start the Excel sheet from scratch. Because you know how to do this, you don't need to be doing this from scratch. So I will give you a template that will deal with just the assignment options that we will do in class. So every day when we have class, you will find class materials either in your inbox or in the module, and I will tell you where it is. You will definitely get it before class. It's likely going to be the day before class or on the day of class. Okay? Good. I want to talk to you about this real quick before I let you go. So these are the equity finance options that we have for our investors. The equity can become, we can call it, becomes gap. It basically takes the position of someone who gives us a loan. That's what the equity can do. In addition, they will also give us equity. And we're going to run a study to see how much money does this person make when they do that. You know, where's the risk? What do we do? The other option is the equity can become the junior lender or can be investing as a mezzanine lender as a junior loan. What does that look like? We'll have that option. Then we have something called ring fencers. I think the people in my last class remember what that is. It's going to be territories, countries, that we will remove from the collateral that the bank will hold. These are tiny, small territories. Small. The bank will say, yeah, we don't care about those. You can have those. But we care about those because we can assign them to the equity investor who will recoup parallel to the bank from these tiny territories and make money right away. They love this. I will show you what that looks like. So it's basically a first recoupment position alongside the bank. And then we have the option for the equity to finance P&A, last money in, first money out. What would that look like? So here's the first one. This is where we have a finance plan for a movie that is $3 million. Same stuff we always do. The international revenues for this movie are estimated to be 75%. The US revenues for this movie are estimated to be 35%. So that's kind of, I'm going to keep it simple for you because the focus here is just the equity investor and their revenues. So then we have pre-sales. 35% of the budget is pre-sold to buyers. The bank will give us 100% of those pre-sale contracts. We will get 20% from the buyers as a down payment on these pre-sales. 20% of $1,050,000 is $210,000. That's the first money we get. We keep it with the sales agent who will hold it for us until we close the movie and have all the financing in the bank. So the loan amount, therefore, 210 minus 1,050,000 is 840,000. That's what the bank will give us for the pre-sales. They will charge their interest, 8% in this case. So we will get 772,800 because the interest reserve of 67,200 is being deducted. So all we get from the bank right now for this pre-sale loan is 772,800. So we got the down payment and we got the bank loan. Now this senior loan is going to be handled by the equity investor. So they will look at how much territories do we have available. We have $1.2 million in collateral. Now where does this $1.2 million come from? We're looking at our international revenues of $2,250,000. We're deducting what we have pre-sold, $1,050,000. We're left with $1.2 million in rights that we can still sell. This is the collateral that the equity investor will look at. They will only give us 50% of that because they will do exactly what the bank does, and they will charge us 12% per year. And they will deduct the entire interest up front. That is 36% for 3 years, all of it. Because they say, we don't want to wait, we're in first position, we want everything up front. And then they will deduct us a loan and legal fees for $50,000. So altogether, we're left with $334,000 for this particular finance component of the loan component. So we're looking at what are we getting? We're getting 772,800 from the bank for pre-sales. We're getting 343,000 from the equity investor for the loan component. And the other two numbers, the gross loan numbers, we know those are the ones we have to put in the waterfall to recoup those, because they include the interest that we have to pay people, because we haven't paid them anything yet. We just put down numbers and hope that we get it. So then we do the incentive loans. We have an incentive for 25%. The lender will deduct 12% for that, so it gets us 660,000. We have the brand give us 15% of the budget for integration. The advertising agency charges 10% for that. So we have 405 left. So altogether, we have generated for this movie with these finance sources 2,381,800, meaning we have to get equity of 618,200, which is about 20% of the budget. That's our finance spend. Very straightforward. You've done this 1,000 times. So here's the revenue. What I want you to focus on is we get 2.5 million, 2.250 from international. We have to deduct the down payments we got from international, leaves us with 2,040,000 from the international distribution rights, and then from US we get our 1,050,000, which is 35% of the budget. Altogether, our total revenues therefore is 3,090,000. We have done this before, you know. I keep repeating myself, I'm sorry. I want you to look at this waterfall, because you know the first one is the collection agency fee, unless we're recouping the senior loan outside of the collection agent, which some senior lenders will insist on, and we're gonna have Excel sheets and studies where we have that applied. It happens a lot. I've done it on various numbers on my movies. So the senior lender basically jumps in front of the collection account. Anyway, in this case, this is normally the case. We have the collection agent charge 1% of the money that hits the collection account, and then they do their job and they pay everyone. They're going to pay the equity investor 600,000 because that includes all the interest fees that they're now due. We pay it now. They're going to give the loan, pre-sale loan to the bank. They are owed 840,000, which includes the interest that they're now being paid. The sales agency gets 12.5% from international. 12.5% of 2,250,000 is 281,250. That's what goes to them. And the US agents get 5% of their sale. The US was sold 1,050,000, so they get 52,500. That's the sales fees, distribution fees that we pay to people. The equity gets their 618,200, and they get their premium now, because as you know, equity always gets 20% premium, which is 123,640. So these are all the expenses that we have. This is what the collection agent will pay to the various parties. So altogether, we're left with 543,510 in revenues for this movie. So let's see how it all plays out for the equity investor. So the equity investor invested 600,000 for the loan version and 618,200 for the equity version. Altogether, their investment is 1,218,200. That's what they gave us. So now here are the things they get. The interest charges, call it that, or call it a loan fee, whatever you want to call it. They got $216,000 in the 36% that they charged. They got a loan fee for whatever, legal fee, call it that, 50,000, which is stuff we usually pay to a bank. And they say, we want what they get. They got the premium of 123,640. That's the premium on the equity that we paid. And they also got profits, because they got 10.3% profits, which is 50% from the 20% they invested into the movie, which is industry standard, as you guys know. So altogether, they got 445,639.65 cents on an investment of 1,280,200. So that represents 36.58% as an ROI if you want. So the next option is they are basically just increasing their equity. There's no gap loan. We're just saying we only get a pre-sale loan, we don't do gap, and the equity investor just pays more. So the finance plan is the same than before. The only thing we don't have is a gap loan. Nothing has changed. So here we see the equity is higher. No longer around 600, now it's 952,200 because we need more money for the movie. It's now 31.74% versus the 20% that they gave us before. So What does it look like here? So all the same in the waterfall applies. The only thing we're not seeing is the gap loan. There's zero here. Everything else applies. Obviously, the equity investment is higher, which means their premium is higher. So our net revenue is actually a little more, which is great for this structure. So for us, this might be a good thing. The equity investor gives us now only what they get. So they gave us an equity investment of 952,200, and they get back from premium and profits 308, 308.08. Great number. That's about 32% of investment. So basically, they get a little less for giving us a little more equity. So that's kind of where we are right now if we compare it to them giving us a gap loan. Here are the two comparisons. That's the slide. So what I want you to do, oh no, this is what I do, ring fences. So here we go. This would be your sales estimate sheet that says we have a movie. Oh, this is the wrong, hold on. No one leaves the room. No one leaves the room. I think I gave you the wrong sales. I gave you the wrong sales estimate sheet. Oh, Jeanette, you loser. We have to fix this. Look at the sales estimates. It's the wrong sales estimate sheet. All right, I'm going to give you sales estimates for a movie that is 3 million, not 9.5. So I put the wrong one in here. I'm going to fix this. But the point I want to alert to is, see like this little ring fencer column here? This is what I'm pulling out. I'm pulling out China. I'm taking away Hong Kong, India. I'm taking away Malaysia. I'm taking away the Philippines. I'm taking away Singapore. I'm taking away, I think it's Thailand and Vietnam. I'm taking these territories away from the bank to keep for me. That's what I'm doing. I want you to just remember the process. That's what Jeanette is doing. She just takes away little territories that the bank doesn't care about. I will discuss this with the bank, and they might say to me, yeah, you know, we really don't want you to take Malaysia. You can take the other ones, but maybe not Malaysia. So they will likely come back to me and say, you might take all of them, that's okay. Or you might take these, but not this. That's a conversation that happens with the bank. But the point is, we're getting some money here for territories that are assigned to us, and we can assign to the equity investor. So what happens is, I'm going to jump to the, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to send you the update with $3 million movie. But what I'm saying here is, in the end, the equity investor, hold on, I'm going to jump to the final one. The equity investor gets ring fencers, which are not even in here. No, they are, here they are. They get ring fencers, which are these territories. And I will, they're net because I'm deducting the sales fee, of course, because they are sold by the same sales agent. They're not sold by someone else. So the sales agent will also deduct their sales fee on these ring fencers that are owned by the equity investor. So they make another 136,000 in this $9 million example. For the lower budget movie, it will be less, but the percentage is likely going to be the same. And then they get the premium from their investment, and then they get their profit. So because it's all percentages, the revenue is likely going to be somewhere around this. What that means is they will recoup parallel to where the bank is recouping, means they make money very early on, which they're very happy about. And they will get extra money with these ring fencer territories that they normally wouldn't have being an equity investor. So that's kind of the thinking behind this. So I will fix this with the right budget and send you the right estimates. So here, the mezzanine lender is basically the equity becoming a mezzanine lender. I'm going to just go with this $9.5 million movie. Here you see the loan is the same because the bank is giving us a pre-sale loan. The bank is giving us a discounted pre-sale loan. The bank is giving us a gap loan. And we're fixing this on the $3 million. The point is, in the end, I'm going to look at what the equity investor makes. This is not so great for them. Even though we think they're going to make this loan and they're going to recoup before and it's all fantastic, the revenue is only 23%. So it's not like, oh, I have to jump over a bridge for this. So being the junior lender is not such a great deal in essence. So if we go down here for the last one where they do P&A just for funsies, let me show you what that looks like. So I have here a movie that's theatrically released. And let's look at this. So we have the movie that is $9.5 million, to stick with that for argument's sake. And I'm dividing the above the line and below the line here because I'm adjusting this portion to what my incentive lender will actually pay. And this incentive lender that I'm dealing with pays a certain portion above the line and a certain portion below the line, which is something that you will likely also encounter depending on what incentive, what state you go with, right? So here we have international sales estimates at 75%. That's fine. We're deducting the down payment that we received from the sales agent. That's okay too. So we're ending up with international revenues of $6,466,650 for this $9.5 million movie. But here's the crux for the US. We are now taking this movie into the theaters, rent a studio deal if you want. We're going to have box office of $25 million. The exhibitor, the theater owner, will take a percentage of that, as they always do. In this case, it's 35%. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It depends on what is negotiated with the exhibitor. Now, the balance is $16,250,000, so that's what we're left with right now. The distribution fee for the studio that we rented to take the movie out, they're going to say, we'll charge you money for the work. We're not doing this for free. It's 25%. It's lower. Normally, it's 35% if they would have licensed the movie and taken it out. That's kind of the range. Now, in this case, because they're not taking a risk, they have not financed this movie, they're just being hired to run the P&A campaign and release it, they're charging us less because they have no risk. They're making us give them the P&A, which is $3 million, to do this little campaign for us. The P&A lender, in this case, is our equity investor. And the equity investor is charging 15% on top of the P&A fee in order to give us this money. So it's literally, they're handing the money to the studio does the release campaign, the movie comes out, generates revenues, they get paid back. Last money in, first money out. That's the kind of thought behind this. So that means the US is left with $6,550,000 from this rent a studio theatrical release, if you want. So then we're going to do our pre-sales for the movie. This is all from a sales estimate sheet that I will send you. So these are not made up numbers. They're actually relating to a sales sheet that I would send you. So, which by the way, I did send you, but let's look at this a little closer. So the sales estimate had $3,291,750 because that's what our sales estimate sheet showed. It's about 30%, so it's all good. The distributors paid 20% of that down payment. Okay, we do this all the time. We got this money first. It's sitting here for the sales agent to give us when we close. The bank says, I'm only giving you 90% of your pre-sales. So instead of $3,291,750, they're only giving us $2,962,575 because they're saying, yeah, we like your pre-sale contracts, but there's a few rugged eggs in there. So we're not giving you 100, we're only giving you 90% on your pre-sales. Okay. So the loan amount after they deduct the down payment is $2,304,255. Fine. They're looking at what is left after the ring fencers are gone because they're usually out. In this case, we don't even know if we do ring fencers, but if we had ring fencers in here, the unsold rights column would be less because the bank will say, I'm going to use the number I have for unsold rights. And my unsold rights do not include the rights you're getting. So just remember when they give you a gap loan in a ring fencer scenario, that will be driven by their unsold rights that they have left. And you keep your ring fencers for your equity investor. So in this case, the collateral is actually that the bank would give us is a little higher than what is allowed. And you remember, the bank will never give us more than 20% of the budget as gap. And that's what we're going by here. We're not getting 1,916,000, which would be 50% of the unsold rights because it's above 20%. We're only getting 1.9 million as a gap loan because they're not giving us more. And then we're getting interest charged. In this case, it's a blended rate, meaning the bank will take the rate for the gap and the rate for the pre-sales and mix them together. You remember from some of the studies that we did in the first class that the gap loan, because it's higher risk, often has a higher interest rate. And the pre-sale loan, because it's basically banking contracts, asset-backed lending, has a lower rate because it's less risk. In this case, we're assuming it's a blended rate of 15%. This is just a reserve, by the way. It's not the full interest. So the loan fee that they're charging, and sometimes they do that, is about 2.5%. I've paid anywhere from 0.5% to, I think the max I paid was actually 2.5%. It's just a loan fee they charge. So we get a senior loan of 3 million, what is it, 468,486. That's what we get from the bank after they discount, after they charge the fees, after they charge the loan fees. So here is the junior, we have a junior loan in there. We know how that works. They're charging 15%. Now here's the incentive. You see that the incentive does different percentages based on what kind of money we're spending in the region. They give us 20% for all the above the line expenses in our budget, cast, rights, etc. And they give us 30% for all the below the line items in our budget. That's the crew, equipment, etc. So altogether, they're giving us 2,517,500. And you find it often the case that an incentive lender will either just give you budget, they just give you money on the below the line, nothing for the above the line, or they'll give you money for above the line and the below the line, but it might be a different percentage. Or they give you money for above the line, below the line, that's the same percentage. It really depends on where you're going. It's just something that the rules change with every state and every country. So in this case, this would be what we're getting. The lender that will give us a loan in advance of this incentive will charge us 12%, which is kind of the going rate, by the way. So then we're getting for the incentive loan 2,214,15,400. All this is great. Here we have our NRs, we have music publishing, we have brand sponsorship, and we have crowdfunding. All together, we get money from these different sources. We get non-recoupable financing of 593,750. You cobble this all together. And these are numbers that are fairly doable. I wouldn't do the crowdfunding because I'm lazy, but this is what could be doable. So then the visual effects, which we often have too, will give us a deferment. Normally, a deferment I would not put in the finance plan because I handle it differently. In this case, to keep it simple, I'm basically saying the post-production is giving us 3%, the visual effects is giving us 2% of a deferment. We don't have to pay this right now. And so we get 475,000 that we don't have to pay. So I will put this into the finance plan as if it's something that we would get. So here we're ending up with an equity component of 1,685,264 for this movie because we have all these different finance sources. So here I will do, it's a regular normal waterfall, but I'm going to point out to you that in this scenario, you see that the senior loan is paid before the collection agent, which happens a lot. So that means when the distributors pay the 80%, they pay the bank first. It doesn't even come into our collection account, so the collection agent cannot charge for that portion. So we're basically saving about $80,000. Is it 80? No, we're saving about 48,000 because normally we would get charged for this portion when it goes into the collection agent account first, and then the collection agent pays it to the bank. So we want to save money. So we say, yes, distributors pay the senior lender first. Here is the second year interest, and that's usually what happens. They charge us one as a reserve, and then the second year interest, if there is a second year, they charge us in the waterfall. So here you will often find the interest that is actually due for the period that you actually took to get the loan paid back. So let's say you paid it back in 18 months, this 15% would be less. If it's 2 years, this 15% would be 15%. If you pay it back maybe in a year, there is nothing. So this will allow you the flexibility of paying what you actually owe to the bank based on your repayment term. And we don't know. We don't know when we get the movie paid back, right? Could be faster. So then we have 8,181,791 left here. And then everything else is applied. There's no ring fencer, so this is zero. We pay everyone. The only thing I want you to look at is post-production and VFX in this case. They have a premium on the 475 that they deferred, and it's a 10% premium, and that is normal. So they charge us another 47,500 to be paid back their amount in a premium form. So then we pay the junior loan, and we pay the equity, and we pay the premium. What I want to show you really is this. So we did this is actually in there twice. I don't know why. Okay, here. So P&A was 450, premium was 337 and some change, profit was 358 and some change. So lending P&A, the fee is all we get. It's not a great deal. It's 24% versus we were in the 30s before with these other financing options that we have. So the job here is to figure out what can I offer my investor to optimize their profit. And if we're in the 20s to optimize profits, but I want to be at least in the 30s when I change finance plans and when I change recoupment and when I change waterfalls. So this is interesting, but not great. So here's what I want you to do as homework. It's in your PowerPoint. And what I'm going to do is, because we don't have enough time, I will make this an extra credit assignment. So when you do the homework, you actually get points. Normally, I would have now broken out again in groups, but we don't have time. So this is going to be your homework. Do this before I see you next, and I will make it an extra credit in the module so you can actually get a few points for this. Questions? Not right now. If you have questions and maybe you watch the recording and you're like, oh, she was so fast and she talked so fast, just email me the questions and we can talk about it. And obviously we can do a one-on-one as well. But if you can't think of anything now, I will let you go. But this, take a picture or use your PowerPoint that I sent you. This will be your homework assignment until I see you next Wednesday. Oakley dokley. Michael, you have a question?
No, I was just saying, sounds good.
All right, I'm glad. Sounds good. Go have a lovely evening, you peoples. I will see you next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
How on earth am I getting out of here? Oh, this computer sucks. Telling you. Being in Maui. All right, here we go.
What?
Nothing. I was just trying to leave the meeting.
Yeah, I think it went well.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye.